What's up, guys? In this episode of Scars and Stripes, we got Joseph Cantasano. Joe was a sergeant in the United States Army and served overseas in Afghanistan. On this episode, Joe goes into full detail on how his video went viral of him emotional begging for help from the VA that never came. After the post went viral all over TikTok, social media, Fox News, they finally reached out and made it right. To this day, Joe still suffers from Ptsd, nightmares, sweats, and he details his whole life story in this episode. Hope you guys enjoy this episode as much as I did. If you guys haven't yet, please head over to my YouTube channel and subscribe and help support these troops. All right, on this episode of Scars and Stripes, we got Joseph. How do you pronounce your last name?
Cantasano. Yeah, Cantasano.
Cantasano. I should know that as a Sicilian.
I'm Sicilian and Napoleon. Yeah.
Army Sergeant, one
Yep.
tour in Afghanistan, 2014. Born and raised in Charlotte, Florida.
Yep, Charlotte County, Florida. Yep.
So I always like to start with the guest. I don't know if you ever watched any episodes yet.
I caught a couple snippets. I honestly wanted to come into this fresh, dude, and just experience your platform the way that you like to do it.
That's awesome. So we always start with the guest, just some basic information. We like to hear like your early life, like, what was your early life like growing up in Florida?
So mom and dad, originally from New York City, dad Brooklyn, mom Freeport. Lived in Brooklyn, Long Island, Queens. 3 boys in 4 years. Italian family life was weird in the 80s. An old man decided to go ahead and pack it up and move with $50 in his pocket on a Greyhound down to South Florida, living in my uncle's living room with me on the way. My dad went from being a very, very successful man with a lot of money and 3 houses and boats to $50 in his pocket showing up in Port Charlotte, Florida on a Greyhound, and then turning into a busboy at the Howard Johnson down by the river. And then, starting a landscaping company because he saw, he had made a little money, saved a little money, was just really trying to be honest, and provide a better life for his sons, in 1989, right around when I was coming up. And I'm a 9-year split from my older brothers, right? So like my older 3 were like 70, 75, 77, 80, and then me 89. So, I think my parents had a realization like they weren't being the best parents. They weren't there for their sons. And then with another one on the way, my dad had a wake up call and like snapped the hell out of it. You know what I mean? So I think my parents definitely made the move to give me the best opportunity possible. And we grew up real humble, living in a rental, in North Port Charlotte. I guess I would say probably, that they stayed there until I was about 4 years old. I vaguely remember that house, but I remember it being full of love. My brothers had a half pipe in the backyard. There was, big skaters, punk heads, and then we moved out to what my mother loved to call Lake Chuck. It was 80 grand in 94. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-story Northern Cape house on 5 acres with cattle and a pond in the backyard. And in the summers, it would flood so bad, man. And we'd be out in the front yard or in the backyard in the summer, and inevitably every year got ringworm. So my mother, story has it, my mom decided, right after I was born, that she was gonna make sure that I had a best friend to grow up with. She was originally told she couldn't have children, and my dad was sitting with a bag of peas on his boys after a vasectomy, and she walked in swinging a test and goes, "You're too late because I am," and thus my little brother was born 364 days later. I always say I was a fuck up, and he's purpose built to be my best friend. So, and to this day, he's like my rider. He's my best friend in the whole world. Huge motivator. He's a wonderful young man. But we grew up, I would say, early days, lower middle class to middle class, I guess. I mean, my mom and dad turned around. They got rid of the landscaping business when I was young. Both of them went to work for the post office, honest work, good benefits. They got 5 young boys, right? So they need good health insurance and stuff. Regular hours, the ability to be there for football games for me and my little brother, and I had wonderful parents, man. I world class parents. Um, I'll never say anything bad about the way I was brought up. It was firm and loving and compassionate, and heavily reinforced to good quality ethics, morals, and values. America first. Very conservative upbringing. Um, you know that being, I was like, it was a very very pro America, healthy upbringing. It was very different parents than my older brothers um, ever had. And at one point in time, they had mentioned that they were a bit like envious, jealous of the way that we were brought up, and then versus with like, oh, you guys got real parents, So that shows
So,
the level of growth for my parents, at that point.
so what's the relationship like now with the older ones? Is there any at all?
Yeah, so my older brother Chris, he overdosed just after he had a serious drug problem for a long time. We did everything we could to keep him clean. Multiple stints in rehab, halfway houses, in and out of jail. The biggest heart, the sweetest dude in the world, just could not stop using, man. It was really sad. It was really really sad. But
He passed.
he did, yeah. He passed. I left for college in about. I caught a scholarship to. I caught a Bright Future scholarship. My old man growing up, he's like, hey, you only have 3 ways out of this county. It's a bar stool or church pew kind of town. It's a small little river town, here in Southwest Florida, and up until really Hurricane Charlie in '04, it was a very small town. I mean, undiscovered. So he's like, yo, Army, football, grades, figured out. He goes, the fourth option you ain't gonna like, but that's behind bars at Charlotte County State Penitentiary. You know what I mean? It's like, so figured out. And so I was a big football player growing up, and I injured myself coming into my freshman year. I was on the 2004 USA All-Star team. Pop Warner destroyed my shoulder. But neither here nor there. My older brothers were my relationship. My older brothers were extremely solid, extremely tight. But my mother died of a sudden heart attack in 2017, about 3.5 months after I got out of the Army.
Man, that's heavy.
But
First of all, I'm sorry for both of the losses between your brother and your mother.
But the sad part is that just before my dad died of pancreatic cancer in 2006. So I was 16. He was diagnosed when I was 14. We lost our home to Hurricane Charlie, lived in a FEMA trailer for 2 years while, all of us worked our butts off to rebuild the home. He was diagnosed on like the 19th or 20th with stage 4 pancreatic terminal cancer, gave him 6 months to live. And in late August of 2004, and we lost our home Friday, the August 13th. We lost.
What age were you in 06 or 04?
I was 13 when he got diagnosed. I just turned. I was just so August '04. Yeah, August '04 was 13, and I was just about to turn 17 when he died. So
I mean that's heavy shit at that age.
Yeah.
That's trauma to where, and I always tell people, I've lost loved ones and close ones. You never get over it. You just learn how to live with it, and you just learn how to, kind of not block it out, but you just learn how to get through the days. And that's coming from someone who, experienced loss myself. It's not, you don't get over losing somebody. I don't care what
No.
anybody tells you. You don't get over it. You just learn how to somehow block it out or live through them.
Yeah, I
I
agree, man.
I tell people I could, my grandfather I was very, very, very close with, and people think I'm crazy, but I could, when I'm in certain situations,
You don't
I
mind
could.
if I do this, dude? By the way.
Oh, I don't give a fuck.
Right.
It's in certain conversations, or when I'm in, holes in my life, in dark spots, I could have a conversation with my grandfather through my head because I know what he would say in those moments, and I know what he would guide me to do in that minute. So it's almost like I live through him, through myself in my head, and not a lot
Oh,
of people understand that, but
no,
that's me.
absolutely. My dad was like my best friend in the whole world. and behind him was my brother Chrissy. It was Christopher. We called him Chrissy. Um, he only let his brothers, for the most, his brothers and some females in his life, call him Chrissy. And those are my two, like my two best friends. I don't want to seem stuck up or presumptuous or whatever, but like my dad got tattoos for all of his boys. My one brother was the old Guinea Italian boxer. My oldest brother was Chucky on his shoulder. The one brother was Dennis the Menace, right? My brother Tom. He's like a wild mechanic. Take apart, the kid was in his formative years taking apart microwaves and putting them back together just to figure out how they worked. Chris was Yosemite Sam, and I actually have that tattooed on my rib cage. He's a wild one. My little brother Mikey was a phenomenal athlete, a brilliant athlete in every sport he touched, and he was like a Heisman football player with his arm out. And then when my dad wanted to get the Tasmanian devil for mine, and I was born and raised Roman Catholic. I was an altar boy for 8 years. Me and my brother both of us, communion, confirmation, the whole deal. Italian, Irish, Catholic family. I mean, I'm sure right? So, my mother's like, absolutely not, Chucky. You're not getting a fucking devil tattooed on your body. You know what I mean? Yeah. And my dad's like, all right, man, we got to pick something else. And he made the decision to get a wizard tattooed on his forearm, and it was a wizard holding the globe of the world. And I thought that was pretty indicative of what he thought of me and my capabilities, and I always valued that.
So how would you say in your aspect when your father passed, did you see a big change in your mother?
Oh yeah, man. This is actually probably the first time, and my brothers are gonna get pissed. My mother was a phenomenal woman. I mean, world class, one of the toughest women I've ever met in my whole life. I never gave her credit while she was alive for how tough she was, but she was tough. I mean, really resilient. But yeah, man, she went through a gigantic bout of depression, and herself got rolled up into for a period there, abusing medication, and what was abusing pain or whatever medication. It was really sad. It was really, really sad. And my older brothers absolutely stepped in to help corner that and make that go away and really be supportive for her. I was gone, man. I left for college. I came home for a year, maybe. Went on a bender, realized that I knew I needed to get the hell out of this fucking small town, or I was just going to end up like a waste case like the rest of my friends, man. I'd pissed away my scholarship by coming home because I felt like that was the right thing to do. And I went surfing and I actually showed up to join the Marine Corps. And the recruiter was such a fucking dickhead to me. I walked in, I got earrings in, I had the Bieber haircut before Bieber was anything, you know what I mean? Board shorts, sand between my toes, just been out surfing all day long. I'm coming off like a 3-day bender, and I'm like, hey, it's like, Marine Corps, I'd like to join the Marine Corps, I'm an infantryman. And he's like, dude looks at me, he's like, pardon my, bullshit, but I'm gonna tell it like it is. He goes, you fucking faggot with your stupid earrings, you'd never be a decent fucking Marine. Da, da, da. And I was like, you're a fucking asshole, bro. And I turned and about faced and walked into the Army's office. I was like, airborne infantry. He's like, have a fucking seat, dude.
I mean, I can't speak for all the Marine recruiters or all the Marines. Is that a common thing you hear people join the
No,
Marine, or is that just the one douchebag that you just ran into?
I don't know, man. I got a grip of friends that are Marines. I served with some really wonderful Marines, both CONUS and OCONUS. I think I don't know. I bet plenty like them and plenty completely opposite. So
because it's funny. I'm asking.
People are individuals, but I felt like maybe the recruiting office at that time had a NCOIC that made that environment completely acceptable to potentially use that reverse psychology tactic, but I feel like I'm a free thinker, and you're not about to tell me I can't be something. So the way I am, I'm all of
Well,
it. Like, you
it,
know what I mean? I'm like, no, dude. Like, I'm like, you have a quota. I'm interested. Show me what you got. Even at that young age, I'm like, I know I need to join the service. I want to be a Marine because in my head, I'm like, I love surfing. Marines are part of Department of the Navy, men's department. I might get some hate for that, but whatever. But jokingly, but in my head, I was like, hell yeah, I get to be high speed and do some oorah shit and be near a beach a large amount of the time to where in my liberty, like, I get to surf. So that was like in my head, that's like, I thought like that was the path, like that would be my path to like happiness. I get the best of both worlds, and it was an immediate turn off. And it's the only reason I did, because I have family on both sides, both Marines and Army. On my mom's side, fought in Vietnam, Korea, World War II, World War One, and it was split Army Marines. And so I just, I thought the Marine commercials were so sexy growing up. And so, man, them blues look good, dude. Them things are sharp, and I wanted a fucking sword, So
it's funny because two things with the Marines. One, I read a statistic that the Marines spend the least amount of money in advertising, and they have the highest recruiting rate out of every branch.
yeah,
I found that so fascinating. And it's funny what you just said before, when that mentality of him telling you you can't. I interviewed Dakota Meyer. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
absolutely. He's a phenomenal patriot, American, and an amazing individual.
Yeah, he's a great man, and I interviewed him. And funny to what you just said, the reason why he joined the Marines, he was in high school, and he was sitting at a lunch table, and a Marine recruit walks in and tells him, "What are you gonna do with your life?" He said, "Well, I'm gonna play football." And the recruit goes, "Good, because you would never make it as a Marine."
Exactly. It was
Right.
it was a tactic, man. I think that was part of their NC, their recruiting school. I really think that reverse psychology worked well because they wanted. I believe the Marine Corps heavily operates on. I may catch a little flack for this, but the Marine Corps, I believe, is heavily healthy on individuals from marginalized communities across the nation that are constantly having to prove themselves, whether it's to their parents or to their community or to somebody else. And you can take from that what you want. I know that there's an undertone there, and I absolutely mean for it to be, because I find that the most successful Marines come from the most broken fucking homes and the most broken communities. And I believe that community of Marines is built on that, and that's just in my personal experience. And I'm not saying that that's a reality, but just the way that I have viewed the world in my perspective, that the most successful Marines in the world have come from the worst fucking backgrounds because they have been told their whole life that they cannot be successful, and they were most likely approached by a recruiter that I was approached by, and maybe Dakota Meyer was approached by, and so that continuing to prove the world wrong is heavily successful in the recruiting process.
And it's interesting that you say that because, I'm not trying to brag about it, or, I'm not happy about it, but a majority of the veterans I have interviewed, Army, Marine, whoever, I'm going to say about 90% of them had a tough upbringing.
Oh
And
yeah,
some aspect, there was some that had normal, Ninja, the guy Ninja, who was Army, he
yeah,
was perfect normal life, but not perfect because he lost his mother at a young age, lost his own, and that aspect, but normal as far as put it this way, there was no everyone had some shit. I mean, everyone has shit,
everyone
but
has shit.
there was some shit worse than others to where it impacted them joining the army. So
Absolutely.
my question for you is, who was Joe in high school? I always ask this question all my guests. Who
Oh
was
my
Joe in high
god.
school? Was he like the popular kid, or the quiet kid, the party animal, smart ass?
uh nah, man. So coming into high school, that's so funny because there'll be 15 people who give you a different story and they'll all be right.
I don't know if
um
that's good or bad.
no, I think I was always loyal to my friends. I was deathly loyal to people I considered friends, not acquaintances.
And I'm sure
um
a lot of that is owed to your dad.
oh
To
yeah,
what you
yeah. Oh, I was the morals and my father and my mother and my brothers facilitated driving into me. Was, I mean, they're my character. They're the frame of reference at that point in my life, right?
And that's
Because
the
I
most
don't,
important trait to
yeah,
have.
yeah. So, uh, freshman and sophomore year up until I got my license were really weird, man. Until I got an early license. I spent a lot of time alone. Our home was destroyed. Was living in a fucking FEMA trailer. 23 foot single wide with my deceased drug addict brother in and out, and my little brother. And I felt like my best friend in the whole world was my Xbox, NCAA and Madden. Um, the world was turmoil in the early years. And I got my mom and dad away constantly at Moffitt Cancer Center. My dad getting treatment, and I'm watching Superman dwindle, and that was miserable. My little brother spent a lot of time with some other families, so I feel like I spent a lot of time alone. I would say it's a 50-50 split between spending time alone and spending time just with my little brother. Um, uh, I was always been outgoing. I'm a talker. I'm a networker, people person. I would say I liked being. I still do to this day. As I get older, I don't care nearly as much, but I like being liked. So, um, junior senior year, I feel like I really flourished into more of your party animal. There was a period of time throughout that I was actually living on my own. Was working full time. I picked up a contract working, setting up and breaking down FEMA trailers with some friends. I uh, got involved in some serious illicit activity. Thank God, never caught a felony. Statute of limitations up at this point, but I was running amok, man. In my later years, made some kind of piss poor decisions. But they're some of the most amazing high school parties for both a year below me and a year above me were at my home. We had 5 acres. The entire back four were filled full of vehicles, and a mile down the street, and we had gone and found extra fridges on Craigslist and filled them full of fucking beer, and we partied sun come up, sun come down, and there wasn't a substance that you couldn't find, in one of the rooms. It was nuts, man. It was definitely living fast, um, making decisions that could have potentially changed the entire outcome of my whole life. Um, I have a very small group of very close friends nowadays that know me and grew up with me in that time, and we chuckle about it weekly. So we're like, holy crap, dude!
Yeah,
Been friends 19 years, and like, man, can you believe we did that? Like, that's crazy. Like, I would never now. Like, I didn't understand the gravity. I felt like after, it was like just before the hurricane, my grandfather, who was a wonderful man, he passed away. And then hurricane hit, and I lost lost a football scholarship, lost my ability to play football, lost my exit from my county playing football. And that's really, I had invested, my brother and I were heavy football players. We played ball. West Coast wing T style offense. We trained heavy. We lifted in the off season as children. We ran and trained, and it was constant. And my dad was the equipment coordinator and defensive line coach, and it was big, man. Football's cash king down here in Southwest Florida. At least it really really used to be. I don't feel like it's nearly like that. The climate's not that anymore, but it was cash king. Deion Sanders grew up 15 miles as a crow flies from me. Some of the biggest names in the NFL at the time grew up in my neighborhood. And then making the USA All Star team. My little brother won a national championship in 2000. One of 30 kids to score as many points as in any you know uh, Pop Warner championship in history up until about 5 years ago. Studs. I mean, it was football. Football was it. So when I lost football, I lost my identity, and then in the midst of losing my father and going through school, me and my brother both lost our identity a bit. And he sunk himself into sports, and I sunk myself into actually building fast cars and street racing and motors, because that was actually a hobby my father had. He was always a musclehead.
The brother you're referring to, is that Chrissy who passed?
Nah, that was my little brother, man.
The youngest brother?
Yeah, my youngest brother. Yeah.
Did losing your father have anything to do with your older brother's decisions, or was this before?
Nah, it was preemptive, man. He was an addictive personality, life of the party, the funniest, smoothest, doofy fat guy you ever met in your whole life. Like it was like he was the epitome of the meme. Like, oh my god, don't date a funny guy, cause haha, and then your panties are off. Like landing gorgeous women. Like it was just so dude. That some bitch was smooth like X-Lax. You know what I mean? He was so smooth. And he's so funny and so charismatic. He definitely got that. We all got our personalities separate, from our father, and a mixture of the softness from our mother. My dad was very, very sweet and very, very, very charismatic, very funny, very people person. My mother was I would say, my father was the street smarts. My mother was the heart. You know, that's I think that all of us kind of pull our personalities a little bit obviously from the two of them. But neither here nor there, man. It was in high school. I was never the most popular kid, but what I was accepted in every single group. So I maintained relationships with I had a crew of goth kids. The 4-H kids, I'd get out and ride horses. The football kids, I'd lift and train. The baseball kids, I'd sit and drink beer and throw the ball. I maintained relationships. I liked being accepted, and I appreciated being accepted, and I found the wealth of ability, even as a young man, as strategic, because I was doing illicit shit. I need to be friends with everybody, so that way I have a wider market.
So, for the viewers, to the best you can, I mean, obviously don't incriminate yourself. What
Yeah.
exactly does that mean?
That
kind of varies from.
Obviously
don't be specific, but
no, I mean, I was a clean, well-spoken, well-mannered, educated, more street smart, educated, honor roll white kid with the ability to facilitate whatever you needed.
Makes sense. I think that sums it up.
So it gave me the ability to fly underneath the radar. I wasn't in the usual spots. I was ambiguous.
So, at what point in high school did you know you were joining the service?
Oh no, I always wanted to join the service. That was something I always wanted to do. It was
You knew.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you knew scholarship or not, you were going in the military.
Oh, I had intended on doing 4 years and joining as an officer. Is really what my intention was.
Do you remember the first conversation with your parents that you wanted to join the
Yeah.
service?
Yeah. Well, I had dressed up for 4 or 5 years in a row as a soldier or a service member, full camo for Halloween growing up, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? 12 happens or 11 happens. So, 3, 4 years in a row, and I'll all the toys as a kid. And my dad loved weapons, big rifleman. He was a great shot. Taught
All
me
the
to be
G.I. Joe toys.
everything. But I mean, I was like 9 years old. I had my first rifle hanging on my bed. By 11, I had my first 22 pistol, and just like him, a pistol in a holster hanging off the corner of my bed like a cowboy.
So I'm assuming the conversation wasn't that shocking.
No, they knew that's what I wanted. My mother knew that, and she dreaded the day. It was an underlier for sure. They didn't know when I was going to do it, but it was something that I had voiced multiple times. That I was like, I want to be a soldier. Like I want to serve in the military.
What
I
year
was
was
like,
it? Did you sign the line?
So I signed the line in 2009.
Okay, so we were fresh in a war.
Yeah, I mean, I got suspended from school for 2 days after 9/11 because I turned to my childhood best friend and still one of my best friends in the world, and we're in 7th grade. I think it was 01. So
Yeah.
would have been 6th grade. I was in 6th grade English class, And I turn to my best friend, Jarrett Williams, and I go, fuck yeah, dude. And he goes, what? I was like, we get to go to fucking war now because we're a country at peace, right? What the fuck is it? What's a soldier in a garden? And even I've been, I'd learned that as a young man. I said, but rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, right? And like my dad, was something, it's something I'd heard my dad say, and I took that to heart. Well, I remember, fuck yeah, dude, we get to go to war. And my uncle was in the North Tower and luckily made it out, and he lost a plethora of friends. We saw a bunch of family in New York City. But I just it was when the second plane hit, I remember going, we get to go to war, dude. This is not an anomaly. This is an attack. We're going to war. And that war will still be active. If I, in my head, I'm like, Vietnam lasted 20 some odd years, 55, 75. I'm like, we're going to be at war, dude. We're going to war. We're going to graduate high school. We'll still be in the depth of war, most likely in the middle of it. We're going to war. And he's like, fuck yeah. And I'll never forget my English teacher was she was a seemingly, I don't know, but seemingly liberal. Joseph, you get out of this class, go see a principal right now, curse in his class. Joseph and Jarrett, get up. All right, cool. So, TV's on a damn cart wheeled out, right? And walk past the TV. And they're like, what'd you do? And I was like, I said, fuck yeah, we get to go to war. And the principal looked at me, Disjardins, Principal Disjardins. And he looked at me and he's like, how much I appreciate your bravado, man. He goes, cursing in class, you guys are getting a 2-day suspension. He's like openly cursing and then repeating it in front of the teacher when asked upon it. He's like, you're getting a 2-day suspension. The rest of school got off 2 days anyways. Okay, dude.
So,
whatever.
So, like, the reason why I ask, because obviously nowadays, if somebody joins the service, there's not too much worry of really going to a war right now. It's very different nowadays, and very
Dude, one of my best friends is in Syria right now.
yeah.
He's a reservist.
So when you were telling your parents, because at that time it's like, all right, you sign the line, you're going to Iraq, you're going to Afghanistan, you're going to war, opposed to now. So obviously that what was mom's reaction? What was dad's reaction?
Oh, so I remember saying that, and my dad's like, we'll talk when you're 16, 17, right? So while we can get you into, like, we'll talk. And then, this is obviously then fast forward, Charlie hits, fast forward, I get injured, blow up my shoulder, football's gone, out of the way, right? Then fast forward, I got back like August 4th from that trip in Mexico, World Championship. August 13th, lose our home. August 19th, dad diagnosed with cancer, right? And whirlwind. So there wasn't really a conversation about what I had said because everybody's in turmoil, right? There wasn't really a conversation. There was I can't remember a conversation whatsoever about the events surrounding 9/11, other than the fact that we were so worried about my Uncle Stephen and his coworkers and friends and the family that we had up there, and the unification of the United States, and everybody's got a flag up. It's like the whole country just settled into like, we're Americans, dude, and like, let's go to war. Like, it is what it is. Like, we've been attacked. And I remember being so proud, but in my head, I'm like, so actually, the phone call I just got was from a young man. I've been working through the recruiters. He's a kid. He's a wonderful kid, and he's got some disqualifying stuff, and it's really upsetting. But either way, sorry, it was him calling me. I'll call him back after this podcast. So, so I graduate high school. They almost don't let me walk because I missed close to 60 days of school each year. A large amount after the hurricane, obviously. That one was a wash. Sophomore year, dad's got cancer. I remember the teachers, really being understanding, and then immediately put on OJT, to be able to spend as much time doing what I need to do, take care of my family, be able to make money, be able to support myself. There's no income, hustle or whatever. And then senior year, I'm on OJT because my grades are really good. I graduated high school with I think a 3.25 unweighted, 3.75 weighted, summa cum laude, full ride scholarship to any college in the state of Florida for public college underneath Florida Bright Futures. I think I got a 1270 or 1275 of my SATs, like a 24, 25 of my ACTs. I did really, really well. It was one or the other, and I knew I had to make the best of my time. I'm a massive procrastinator, so like cramming for tests has always been like kind of my thing. But I joined the army, and my mom, or I joined, I go to college. My mom's real happy, and then I come home and I start getting into more illicit crap. And I was dating a girl at the time who was older than me by about 3 years, and a big motivator. And I was a young man infatuated with her.
It's
At the
always
time,
a story about a girl.
and she told me, never forget. She goes, "There's no way that I'm gonna continue to date a gangbanger from Charlotte County and a college dropout. So you better figure something out if you want this to work." And I was like, all right. And I ended up, full disclosure, like I feel like if I get to share my successes with people, I have to share my failures. So I'm pretty open about that, right? Like, how can you
Yeah,
root for me
I
if you
mean
didn't know where I
that's
came
how you.
from?
Yeah, that's how you are the man you are today.
Yeah. So I went on like a 3-day bender, dude. And I woke up and there was surf. December 17th, 2009. I went surfing, and then I finished the session, and we're talking about golf surf, so it wasn't like huge, just like 4.5 feet. Like, but holy shit, we got surf! Right, so I'm like super excited about it, surfing in Venice. And I pulled into the recruiters, and I didn't tell anybody I was doing it. It was on my heart while I was in the lineup. I was like, I gotta have a change. I gotta get out of town. I don't have a felony record. I have good grades. I have the extracurriculars. I can get the recommendations. I gotta get the fuck out of here. Like, I've now lost my scholarship. My family's too broke to be able to pay for college. I don't want student loans. I gotta get the fuck out of here.
And your
Uh,
father's passed at this point?
oh my dad's dead.
Okay.
My dad's dead, and my brother's dead.
Okay. So
So
then, they weren't around when you actually took off.
no. And I went. I signed my preterm paperwork on the 17th. On the 21st, I went to MEPS. I did my initial. I did my ASVAB and all that. And on like the 22nd, I depped in on delayed entry, and I came home, and my mother's like, "Where the fuck have you been?" And I go, "Well, I found a job." Because "You found a job?" I go, "Yeah, I found a job. I'll leave in 3 months." It's like, "What do you mean you leave in 3 months?" I said, "Mom, I joined the army." "You fucking did what? You fucking did what?" It's crying, screaming, grabbing freaking pots, pans, freaking wooden spoons, chasing me through the fucking house. She's like, "You better sleep with that fucking door locked at night. So I'm gonna bludgeon your fucking knees." Losing her shit. Because my Uncle Billy, he died of a heart attack, Agent Orange. She saw, the man I was named after was one of the co-pilots of the Spirit of Freeport. He was a B-52 pilot. He shot down twice, once over France, and linked up with the French Revolution, and then smuggled back to UN camps, and they freaking repainted Spirit of Freeport with his crew back on another B-52 and went back. So it's like I'm like, I got 5 brothers, five, all of fighting age, all of which physically capable. Now at this point, 4, but 5 originally, and not a single one stood up and took the call. And it's something I always wanted to do, and I knew it would be a way for me to advance my life. I knew it would be a way for me to be successful in my future, and I knew it would be the best memories of my life, and I'd make the best friends. So there wasn't much of a question for it.
So when did you actually leave for boot camp?
March 21st or 22nd of 2010.
2010. And how would you
So,
describe boot camp for you? Was it what you
um,
expected? Was it more? Was it less?
nah, man, boot camp. I thought, honestly, it was like going in. I'm like, it was a lot like a football camp. It's like, yeah, of course they're gonna treat me like shit. I think what I got most frustrated about is I grew up in a structured environment as a young man where I had the level of respect for my superiors, and I had the ability to follow orders. It's like It was fucking simple. Like I remember the recruiter's like, "Hey man, right place, right time, right uniform. Do as you're told. Don't fucking quit." I'm like, all right, cool, simple enough. Let's do it. And I'm not saying. I mean, I'm no fucking stud, but like it it was hard. I'm not saying it wasn't fucking hard. I was a deconditioned punk fucking kid. Um, I was used to drinking and partying and sleeping in. Like, yeah, of course it was hard, but it wasn't undoable. Where I had the biggest problem in boot camp was like grown ass men just with the inability to follow simple fucking orders and then me get my balls smoked off for it. Bro, I am 19 years old. I am 19. You are 20 some odd years old. You can't listen to simple directions. You can't put a fucking name tape on your uniform right. Like you can't blouse your boots right. You can't just not stop fucking marching. Like just keep going. What the fuck? It's not that hard. So it was more what boot camp wasn't hard. My level of frustration with my peers was hard.
Did those peers end up making it fully through?
Um, Yeah, a large amount of them. Yeah. So when I went to Benning, I went to Benning, and they did a split program in 2009 2010. So like it was like before they went to like full Pogue companies, you know what I mean? In Benning where they had like non-infantry units and infantry units. It was like it was non. They wanted to do what's called, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is to my understanding, the shit that I read, they wanted to do what's called a light forward support, very very much mimicking what the Marine Corps was doing. With everybody goes to goes through, um, you know, what is the infantry or the Marine Corps called, like infantry school, right? Everybody's rifleman first in the Marine Corps. I can't remember what they call their SOI, School of Infantry, right? So the Army for like about 24 months apparently, and somebody's gonna correct me because I'm probably wrong, but they were sending non-infantry MLS guys through infantry OSIT up until the last 2 weeks at Benning. So, and then I know in my contract, what I signed was that I was only allowed to be with like tier one and like tier one airborne light infantry units for the entirety of my first 8 years. So the whole goal was that like not only are you a light forward support dude, but you're also a capable infantryman up until turn to blue, right? So when I went to AIT, we packed our bags and the rest of the infantry platoon, the infantry company, that all the guys that were sleeping in the bunks with me in the bays, they're like, all right, go to AIT, get on the fucking bus, y'all go to AIT, do fucking push-ups. And like I was like, I remember being fucking so sad. So I took my mother's advice. She's like, please don't go direct infantry. She's like, please find a real world skill that you can do what you want to do, and put yourself in positions to where you can find what you want, but don't go straight infantry. Like I don't want you to be a cop when you get out. Like I want you to have real world skills. So in my head as a young man, I thought, what does every Fortune 500 company have? They have an HR guy. Well, why would any company not want to hire a high speed, highly motivated, extremely capable HR dude? Right. And then the way my recruiter explained it to me, and like in some ways I'm so thankful, in other ways I think back, I'm like, motherfucker got me, bro. But he's like, hey man, as an S1 dude, right? Like you're attached to the battalion commander, right? Like you're attached to battalion commander, regimental commander. Like you'll get the ability to be on his Ptsd and the coolest detachments. And if you work your ass off, like you'll get the best schools because you're in headquarters, this and the other. And in all honesty, it ended up really being the truth. Like being because what's I were you in the Army or the Marines?
Neither.
Oh, no, not at all.
No, I was never in the
Okay.
service. So,
All right. So in the Army, man, my MOS, right? I was a 42 Alpha previously. My MOS was like 71 Hotel, right? I'm an admin dude. Okay. So as my MOS is primarily dominated, and I'm just telling it like it is because I've seen the statistics. My MOS is primarily dominated by minority and female soldiers. Okay. A large amount of which have been reclassified because of physical profiles. So you end up, and I'm not saying they're any more high speed or any more low speed, but that's the demographic that I was that I was in. As I was an anomaly as a fully physically able young white guy and an admin. So because I applied myself and I was a good shooter, 40 out of 40 on every weapon system, a quality PT, a phenomenal. I was a really good rucker, and I followed orders. My uniform was tight. Like I got a lot of opportunities that I wouldn't otherwise got because I was so freaking close to the head shed, and I was an anomaly. Because the rest of my platoon was, they looked nothing like me, they worked nothing like me, and they were not capable as me. And I'm not being, I hate saying that because I feel like I'm being arrogant, but I'm simply telling the facts in my personal experience, right? So it did work out to advantage because I crushed PT tests, because I held the regimental guide on so I went through boot camp at Benning, AIT at Jackson, then followed on airborne school. So I showed up to my first unit. Originally, I was supposed to go to 82nd Airborne. Then dudes are going to, they were going to freaking somewhere in Iraq. I think it's 1st to 504th, 4th Brigade, 82nd. I'm like, oh, cool, going to 82nd. They're like, oh, no, you're set up for a rotation. Y'all are going to Iraq. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, yeah, you guys are taking over prison guards, as a prison unit. Like 4th Brigade's taking over as prison and sustainment. I remember in my head, I'm like, fuck that. I did not join the army to just sit on some fob and be bombed and guard smelly dickheads. Like they're not what I joined the army for. So I applied to West Point, and I applied to, they're like, hey, by the way, we also have applications open. There's like 3 or 4 spots open to honor guard, Arlington National Cemetery. Your MLS happens to be open to them. So there were 10 dudes that applied to 3 or 4 spots for my MLS at honor guard, and they were looking for younger Joes, high quality, 5'10" or taller, right? Met height, weight, PT, GT score, right? There's a couple of different qualifiers because that's considered a tiered unit, right? So it's a qualified unit. Honor guard, Arlington National Cemetery, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, presidential burials, and all that, right? So it's the old guard, and I got accepted to both. And I wasn't married at the time, and I was about to get that, so I got accepted in AIT before I went to airborne school, and to both of them. And I remember turning down West Point because I wanted to get married to my high school sweetheart, and I ended up going honor guard. Honestly, best decision of my life, dude. My first wife, I mean, it's the army. They didn't issue the first one, so I didn't get to keep it. Um, I have like a rock star life now. I'm so happy the way life turned out. I'd go through all that turmoil again for.
Yeah, man. That's just, I
But
know the feeling.
yeah,
I was there.
so I did my first 3 years honor guard on Cantasano Cemetery. I got some really cool experiences. I got to pull some really phenomenal details. I got to walk at the tomb. It was a great foundation of my military career. I won a squad competition. I got to pick a school. I was already airborne qualified. Everybody's pushing me to go air assault, air assault, air assault. And I wanted something a little more unique. And on ATARS, like the Army's Army Training and Tactical Registry System, I think that's what it stands for, the acronym ATARS. But the schools catalog, I saw MTT for Unconventional Warfare School, and it was hosted by, I think, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Group, Bush Hogs, 3rd Special Forces Group, so out of Bragg. And I'm like, that looks dope. And I selected it, and 2 other guys in my unit were like, no, fuck that. Like, Cantasano's doing Unconventional Warfare School, MTT. Like, they just fired that up. They haven't ran that MTT since like the 80s. Like, yeah, we're going to do that. So I ended up doing it, dude. It's a blast. I graduated close to the top of my class, and immediately was like, no, I want to serve in special operations. Like, this is the dopest thing. I had so much fun. Like, I'm fast ripping into buildings. I'm flying map of the earth, and I'm hitting objectives, and it was sick, man. It was everything I ever thought. Like, I'm a product of the Call of Duty generation, and you're not far off. So it was everything.
I still am.
Right? It was everything. It was everything I ever saw. And so I'm like, oh, this is amazing. So I use my networking capability and my position to pull some strings at the Pentagon with some previous members of my unit and a little charisma. And I'm like, hey, I speak Spanish, like, pretty well. I speak Spanish. I'm from Southwest Florida. I know I want to be with an SF unit. I want to deploy immediately. Can you guys find me a spot with 7th Group? So 7th Special Forces Group, specializes in anti-narco terrorism in in Central and South America, as well as anti-terrorism overseas. So I'm like, hell yeah, a little bit of both. And since I'm going to be gone a lot, my wife, who I was had not left at the time, would be closer to home. So I'm like, all right, two birds, one stone. I get to go and be all that I can be, and my wife gets to be closer to home. I get to do the mission that I want to do. We get to live in a wonderful location, right? We're near the water again. We're back in Florida. I'm a lifetime Floridian. It's gonna take a lot for me to leave here. I love it here, and so I did that, and it was phenomenal, man. I was in Second Battalion, 7th Special Forces Group. I had the most courageous, most heroic, wonderful men and women with me, and we did some really wonderful things. And I have no doubt in my mind that I was a part of some really historically monumental operations that I know that some of my closest friends lost, close friends and men that I was, lived and trained with lost their lives, and or limbs that one day somebody's going to pick it up and make a movie about it because it's the most heroic shit I've ever heard in my life. I've never seen and been a part of in my life. Um, yeah, it was, I always tell people it was the greatest, worst job I ever had.
I've heard that once before. I've heard that. It's funny you said that. I spoke to a vet off camera. He doesn't have that personality to want to share, kind of his story, and he said it was the best worst job, and he wouldn't change it for the world
No,
because
I wouldn't, I wouldn't, man. It was, you know, I, I, I think there are a couple of different types of vets. It has a lot to do with their personality prior. And however, I may be an America forward vet, and that combat shaped my life. I don't wear a grunt style T-shirt 24/7. You know what I mean? Um, there's a couple. I think that a lot about my character says that a vet, and that there's a level of discipline that comes with my previous lifestyle. Sometimes I hear like, "Oh, hey, are you law enforcement? Were you previous law enforcement, or that kind of thing?" Or and I've even heard like, "Hey, hey man, did you ever serve time?" Because institutionalized, right? So which is kind of funny. I always laugh at that one. And I'm like, yeah, man, school with a big green weenie, bro. I served all 8 inches,
Jesus
whole 9 yards of the big green weenie, bud, for sure. It got me, but I, it definitely, I mean, it affected my personality. It affected everything about me. I would still, dude, I really don't even want to think about the man I'd be if I hadn't joined the military.
So how long was the deployment in
So
2014 in Afghanistan? How long were you there?
it was right at 7 months.
Okay, so you guys were there for 7 months. Are you able to say what the mission was? Like,
Yeah. So
what you guys.
yeah. So I was so 7 Special Force Group participated in OEF 22. It was straight up counterinsurgency, VSP, village stability platform, and village stability operations. We did a large number of snatch and grabs and HVTs, as well as valley clearing operations, along with the fact that we were just coming into retrograde. So we were breaking down a lot of our VSPs and moving our equipment and gear and men back, um, as well as a large amount of uh, reconnaissance for future units coming in and the overall health, wealth, and prosperity of the region. A lot of KLEs. I mean, it was a multifaceted mission set. Um, you know, on the day to day, my primary function was on that. Like, if you want to break it down, like my day to day was not out on patrol. So over the course of 7 months, I did close to 60, 62 patrols, something like that, as well as probably another 2 dozen AMRs. So air missions or whatever. But so 60 or so patrols over the course of 7 months. Um, I Dude, you want to hear a really funny story? This is actually really good.
Slowly.
All right, so I laid the premise right. My dad's a mailman. Okay, we're broke in the early '90s. I'm about 5, 6 years old. My dad's dropped me off at kindergarten, and he goes, "You know why I work so hard? I'm sitting on the floorboard of his 1975 right-hand drive CJ7, no AC, with a fan. He's got a big old cigarette in his hand. Right, the windows drop down. He's dropped me off in the parent drop off line because I missed the bus. He goes, "You know why I work so hard?" I said, "Why, Dad?" He goes, "I work so hard being a mailman so that one day you'll never have to deliver the mail or worry about it. I just want you to focus on school and football. That's it." Yes, sir. So I joined the Army. They give me my MLS. I don't think anything of it, right? I'm like personnel actions. I'm handling paperwork. I believe I'm an intelligent guy. It stood true. That's why I was qualified for the job that I got, and I was pretty successful at it. And so I show up to my first unit, and they're like, "Hey, company commander wants to see you downstairs in the basement." Roger. So show up. Hey, private first class Cantasano reporting, sir. Eddie's Roger, sir. It says, "I need you to sign this. This one's for your rifle. Sign my rifle card. Inspect the rifle. I need you to sign this one. This one's for your gas mask, right? Inspect the serial number. Good to go, sir." I said, "Sign this one." "So what's this one, sir?" He goes, "It's your mail card." I go, "Excuse me, sir?" He goes, "You're the certified mail clerk for the entire 3rd Infantry Regiment." I go,
Wow.
audibly, I go, "Are you fucking kidding me, Dad? I'm a PV2, dude. Like, no, I fucking spit on." I go, "Are you fucking kidding me, Dad?" He goes, "Excuse me, private?" I said, "Permission to speak, sir?" He's like, "Yes, sir." I go, "My father told me if I worked real hard and got good grades, and that if I applied myself, that I'd never have to deliver mail like he did." I said, "Sir, you just made me the happiest and saddest I've ever been in my whole life." He's like, "Why's that?" I was like, "You just issued me my first rifle. That's mine for the foreseeable future, and I get to love it and have it, and it's mine." I said, "You also just issued me the same exact fucking job he told me I'd never have to do."
But in some
And
way,
he
that
and
had to be.
oh, I was like, I remember, he's like, "You're dismissed," and I looked up and I go,
And
he goes, and I was like, "My apologies, sir, for my breakout." And he's like, "You're fine, you're dismissed." I said, "Roger, sir." Snap, saluted, turn around. And I remember looking up the ceiling and go, "You son of a bitch, you fucking dirty motherfucker." I walked out. I was like, "Oh my god, he got me, bro. He fucking got me."
man, that's fucking
So,
amazing.
but the dopest thing about that is that while I
It
was
gave me
with,
chills.
while I was with 7th Special Forces Group, right? While I was with 2nd Battalion, so I'm the certified mail clerk for the unit, right? So I got my own mail room. I'm running mail operations. I get to leave CAF every day and go pick up her mail, and I get. But the cool thing is what a lot of the fucking berets, man, they fucking hated me because I got to go anywhere in the country I wanted, anywhere. I had 2 birds at any point in time. If you know anything, man, nothing stops United States Postal Service. So if I had certified letters to go out, I had a deadline to get it to that damn combat outpost, and I would wheel and deal and bag support supplies for my teams out there, and I would have them AMRs drop me off. I'd be able to hop on a patrol, run a support by fire position, and be able to get on some of the dopest missions and spend time with my boys or deliver stupid shit. Like, oh, I whatever. I'm not getting in trouble for this at this point. I'm not underneath UCMJ. I would fill out fake certified packages and I'd be like, "Hey, I need an AMR within the next 72 hours. I got to go to Shwali Cot." "Oh, why?" Like, "Oh, hey, Sergeant Riker's got a package I got to have him sign for. I got to drop it." Right. So certified, I have to deliver it personally. It has to go from me to you. I can't give it to, there's no third party. I got to go. So I got 2 birds spun up and it's just me on these birds and my duffel bag and my backpack, my battle kit. I got my rifle, my pistol. Good. Man, I never forget. I flew all the way out to Fop Apache to deliver a gummy bear bag of dicks to one of my best friends. I'm like, and he's like, he's laughing. I was just before I got Battlefield promoted. He was a sergeant on specials, one of my best friends in the world. And he goes, "You fucking flew 70 clicks." He goes, "You understand how expensive this bag of gummy bear dicks are?" And I remember going on the HLZ. I go, "Yeah, but don't they taste so good?"
Dude,
But it was cool, man. I was afforded a lot of opportunities, and I think it's because maybe I used the arena that I was put into to my benefit, and I may catch some hate for that, dude. And like, but
dude.
I love my job. I took pride in it, and I took care of my guys, and it showed really well. I was decorated very, I was decorated for the things that I did, and the way that I took care of my men. On top of that, I don't, I don't know of any other 42 alphas in the United States Army that were battlefield promoted in Afghanistan, and I have the fucking paperwork to prove it. I skipped and advanced by force com, by my battalion commander, group commander, and a force com commander of all of Afghanistan, and I bypassed the entire regulatory system for promotions, and I was battlefield promoted to sergeant, and that was a lifelong goal of mine. My battalion commander knew it was a big goal of mine. He knew that's why I killed myself. I was working stupid hours. I volunteered for every patrol, every fleet tac, every dismount patrol, every PSD patrol. I volunteered for all of it. And I remember about 3 months in, he's like, Cantasano, why the hell are you killing yourself? You volunteer for everything. I was like, sir, I want to get battlefield promoted. He goes, what? I was like, I know that I may not do this forever. I was like, but because of regs and all this other stuff, and even though I'm in charge of a squad, but my squad is not an infantry squad, SF like Milper messages don't allow me to be promoted to corporal, and I don't have the points to ever be a sergeant. I'm not going to finish my bachelor's degree while I'm in, and you can't send me to enough schools while I'm in. If I decide to only do my 8, that I'm ever going to make sergeant. So I'll never be an NCO unless I bust my ass right now and show you that I'm worthy of being an NCO. So August 4th, 2014, battalion commander, battlefield promoted me to sergeant, man. Beyond any point system or anything like that, and I was a sergeant. I'd turn around, come home, and ended up going to Mississippi to WLC. You know?
So did you want a career in the military, like full
Oh
time?
yeah, I did. Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how long did you ultimately were in the Army?
It was like joined March of 10. I got out July 5th of 17. So right there, just over 7 years.
So when you come home from deployment, how was Joe different?
Oh man.
Was it completely different from what you expected after being deployed? I mean, you knew what to expect, from the
Yeah.
training and everything, but
Yeah, man.
but when you're there, it's like, it's a completely
Uh,
different. There's no training for it.
yeah, no. When you're there, man, when you're there and you're out running patrols and you got you know you have friends dying and friends getting hurt, and you're spending that much time, you know 24 hours on a flea tacker patrol, and you're wide awake and you're barely sleeping and pissing in a bottle, and you're just like such a heightened state. Like, that does something to your brain, man. It really does. It rewires your brain into that fight or flight, right? So I came home, and I think it took me three, and everybody's experience is different. And that's what's beautiful about the human brain, man. But I think the first time I went grocery shop. So a little caveat to, not only did I do the time, and a lot of guys go, "Oh, I did 15 months in Iraq." I'm like, dude, I'm really sorry. That's tough. Or I did 12 months. That's great. Um, I know you went through that, but like I went through what I went through, and I feel the way I feel, and I saw what I saw, and I know where I'm at, and you weren't in my boots, and I wasn't in yours, and I'm not here to tell you yours is any worse than mine, right? But push come to shove, I yes, I mean, you're forever different. I remember it taking almost 3 hours for me to go grocery shopping when I first got home. Not to mention the fact that, like, here I am, I I gave up my B hut and my bed in my B hut. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go home. And I was a junior sergeant in my platoon. And my senior E5, one of my best friends, Josh Taylor, stud, fucking stud.
He's still
Uh,
around.
oh yeah. He's still around. He's a stud. He got out a little bit after me. Rockstar, another high speed 42 man. The two of us were tied neck and neck for top shooters and top maneuvers for special operations urban combat support course Sabucus just
Let's
before he
get him.
left.
Let's get him on
So
the podcast.
yeah, dude, you ought to get him. He's a good old boy. He's from just north of Jacksonville, a little town called shit. It's so fucking small I can't remember the name of it. I was just there not too long ago. He's a good old boy. I love Josh to death. He is a stud. And
Shout out to Josh.
he's my man. Um, it was he very quickly went from mentor to best friend. I showed up as a senior specialist to unit, and we're two good old Florida boys, man. Immediately clicked. So, um, but
So what was
Josh,
the struggles with the grocery store incident? Like
nah,
what
dude,
was
I couldn't. It was like in my head, I felt like I was watching. You know, I you know, some vets will say one thing or another, but you know, when you spend that much time in like a heightened state of like security and alertness, and you're so aware of life, right? Like I haven't thought about what the fuck I've wanted to eat in months, man. Like I don't know. I have no idea. Like why does it matter? What am I? Why am I here? I felt like me personally, I never. I I felt like it was the first time in my life I had purpose was being overseas.
did
To
you
be
want to
honest.
be back overseas?
Oh yeah, yeah. I actually. So Josh, I was getting in that. The caveat was Josh, a big FSU fan. I'm a Gators fan. Uh, Josh had his wife had surprised him for tickets for October 25th, 2014 for the Georgia game. He actually I ended up giving up my seat. I didn't come home. I ended up giving up my seat on the bird. My entire battalion and everybody redeployed, and I was the last 14 service members to leave from OEF 22 from SOTF 72 Task Force 72. So we came home. We landed in mid-November after being stuck and continuing to do patrols for 2 weeks after my guys are home. They host a battalion party. I showed up to an empty parking lot with my wife and and that's like yeah, and I know this is common for a lot of guys, but social media is in the infancy, right? Where I was able to like see a little bit of Facebook here and there, right, or whatever. So I see all my guys partying, they're home, and everybody's excited, and the videos, the warm welcome, and the whole town comes out. Second Battalion's home, and I pulled up at sundown to an empty parking lot, with my wife, and went home and spent the weekend with her, and showed back up to work on Monday like it was nothing.
And this was after coming home from Afghanistan.
Yeah, this is coming home from Afghanistan 2.5 weeks after my entire battalion had redeployed. Already done their week and a half of block leave. It's gone into reset, and they're like business as usual. And I got home on a Friday. I was back at work on Monday.
And how many guys were in your unit, or
Uh,
when you were over deployed?
so,
That you were, your crew.
my task force, I think directly assigned, not attached personnel, was probably pretty close to maybe 300 guys, maybe.
Oh wow, that's big.
Maybe. I mean, I would say maybe. And I should know this because I handled the direct personnel accountability. But dude, it's been 10 years at this point since November will be 10 years I've been home.
So when you come home, your now ex-wife, what what's the conversations like? Is it more like does she realize what you've gone through, or is it more
Yeah.
like you're just trying to just be normal, or does
Nah,
she see like a whole different version of Joe coming
nah,
up?
she knew what she knew what I went through. She knew what I went through. You know, I some of my best friends were on the teams, and they divulged a little bit more to their wives than a lot of support guys in general, because it's I would say a lot of the support guys don't divulge to their wives what the team guys do. Um, it's like, uh, eh, you know, as a support guy, like team guy. That's a territory. Like you're a team guy. Like you're an operator, bro. Like you're kicking in doors, shooting people in the face. You know what I mean? Dropping bombs and doing all that stuff. The wives know that. That's the job. So as a support guy, I would say most of support guys or girls tend to protect their spouses a lot. You know what I mean?
Were you more
Uh,
open or more kept?
um, I would say omission. Like she knew what it was because her close girlfriends in the unit were all team guys' wives.
Right.
So she knew if it took me 2 days to get on the phone with her after a big op, like that I was a part of or helping doing, resupply for her or whatever. Fuck. she knew what happened.
Because you always hear stories of I asked multiple people on here who are married, previously married. A lot of relationships in the military never work out for
No.
whatever reasons. Did the military ruin that marriage for you, or was it
Um.
really separate?
So, I was young. I married a woman to keep dating because I couldn't afford to move her with me to my first unit to keep dating. I was in love with her though. And I don't want to get that twisted because there's a really good chance she'll probably see us. But we were young and naive, and we mistreat each other. The we both were heavy drinkers. Um, there comes a level of volatility with that. I came home from Afghanistan and immediately wanted to disconnect from reality and really drank heavy. But in my head, it was like, I do everything I do. I'm still a 280, 300 PT guy. I still 40/40. I still show up to work on time. I'm still getting accommodations. I'm still getting achievement medals. I still get my certificates of appreciation. I'm still advancing, right? I'm still put up for a promotion board. I'm doing everything in my professional life, right? But I was fucking destroying my personal life. And I was short. I was cold. I was aggressive. I was having terrible nightmares.
This is due
And
to obviously the PTSD of
yeah, I
that.
mean, like I said, man, put a lobster in boiling water, watch the color change.
So what's I know you're married now, happily married, and you have
Yeah,
a great wife now.
I just celebrated 5 years. We just got back from backpacking Italy.
Congratulations.
Do that. We've been together about 7.5, 8 years,
Do you
and
still
she's
have
my best.
any? Do you still have
No,
any relationship with your ex-wife?
no, no, I
No.
don't.
So
No, I it is ex- for me and my ex-wife and my current wife. Um, Man, you don't move forward by continuing to walk through the same hole, right? So there was a level of closure that was absolutely necessary
I
for
guess
the
I guess that's what I really meant. Were you able to leave on just on a good note, or
um oh it was volatile, but it was volatile, but both it was mutual. Um, there was there was uh there was mistreatment on both parties, and neither one of us were without guilt.
right?
So,
And I think
I know, but early in the marriage before Afghanistan, there was a massive level of distrust, rightfully caused by my ex. I don't feel like I need to slight and divulge, and you can pull from what we want, but it definitely shaped the future of the relationship. Um, and I was young and angry about it, and I tried to continue to tell myself that it was okay, and I never really forgave her. And so maybe it's my fault for dragging it on so long. The relationship probably should have ended about 3, 4 years before it did.
well,
But
we live
yeah,
and we learn. You guys were both
yeah,
young, and we wish her the
oh yeah,
best. You guys
oh
move on
yeah,
with your
absolutely.
lives, and
Not as far as I know, she's extremely happy, and
that's great.
I lost my ability to have children while I was serving. Airborne school, man. I rig in flight, and I racked my boys bad, and it crushed the base of my epididymis. I lost my ability to have children.
Uh,
So she always wanted children. She has two allegedly beautiful daughters, young daughters, and she's very happy and living somewhere in Tennessee or something like that. So I couldn't be happier for her. I know I'm happier than I've ever been in my whole life, and I
yeah,
wish her and her family nothing but health, wealth, and prosperity. You know what I mean?
that's a great attitude to have toward it, and I I commend you for that. So, how did your perception change after serving of the world?
So I would say I've had a big perception shift. Um, Not so much directly following me serving. So, in the point of full disclosure, like I said, I told you I like to share my failures as well as I do my successes. So, I've done really well over the course of the last few years. But dude, that I came home from Afghanistan, and it wasn't just me; it was a multitude of men in my company and in my battalion, in my task force. A lot of us went through divorces, and a lot of us spiraled. There were a large number of Article 15s, a large number of substance abuse problems. Right? It was big. It was rampant. At one point in time, there were 3 or 4 guys living in my house because I'm one of the only men in my unit that went through a divorce and got to keep their fucking house. So I moved my boys in and charged them $100 a week for a room, and was able to live a little bit more comfortably. I didn't have a second income of my wife, and nor was I paying her bills anymore. But then I had like my best friends around me, and we called it the frat house. It was we called it Jada Kappa Kappa, man. It was Joe, Con. By the way, C wasn't really in the Greek. I don't think it's in the Greek alphabet. So we KK, right? It was Con and Chucky. But Jada Kappa Kappa, our slogan was, drink it up and dick them down, stay vigilant. Like rancid. We were living a high speed lifestyle. We all of us had motorcycles. I had a fast, go fast boat, a little bungalow right off the water, middle of town, low overhead. You know what I mean? We were all making good money, all the extra additional special duty pay, special duty assignment pay, jump pay, demo pay, all, language pay, all that other stuff. So we partied hard when we came home because our relationships fell apart, and that's, I guess, how mid-20s men cope, right? That's mid-20s. I would say mid-20s type A individuals cope is to be as extravagant as humanly possible.
So at that age, or even now, so I mean, when you look back on everything, I ask almost every veteran this question is and on their guests, because in the moments in Afghanistan and Iraq, yeah, you're there, but it doesn't really hit you until
No, it doesn't. No,
have
it's
you
not till months later, if not years sometimes.
right, and that's what I asked him. I said, have you ever like just sat down by yourself, nobody around, just Joe by himself, and actually realized what the fuck you've seen and what you've been through?
Oh yeah.
Because it's not a normal thing. It's not normal for
No,
people to see what you guys seen. And
it's
have
not.
you ever
It's
like able to give yourself a chance to process, maybe through therapy or even by
oh yeah.
yourself, just
Oh yeah. I mean,
process
I've
what it was?
years of therapy, years of self therapy, years of denial, years of heavy drinking. You know what I mean? Um, but I want to get back real quick. So on my way out of the army, right? I was drinking a lot. I did get in trouble a little bit. I never caught an Article 15. I was never demoted. I got an honorable discharge, but I was recommended for a dishonorable. I got a DUI freaking 7 months before my ETS. I signed it. So I originally had gotten set up and was working my ass off training. I'd gotten pulled off a deployment. I had a senior take my spot. I'm not even gonna get into that. He's a shitbag, and it was a rank thing and the retirement pro bono. The son of a bitch ever came to our unit, and he ended up taking my. I was an NCOIC of my battalion as a senior E5, and he ended up stepping in, being assigned to us, and he was some NATO dude who was like 27-year E7 broke dick. Who they're like, oh yeah, you can take like no Cantasano, like you're staying you're rear D NCOIC, and I'm like, I just successfully completed a deployment. Like, why? I want to go with my guys. I've been on train up now for 14 months with these dudes. These are my guys. It's been there 3 months going on range with them. So I got left behind as I'm going through my divorce. So my own devices, a lot of rope to hang myself, and I did. I was drinking and partying a lot. I ended up doing a stint in 30-day stint inpatient rehab, cleaned up um, for drinking. I mean, drinking a lot. And I did a 30-day self-admitted 30-day inpatient rehab. Um, Came home, was sober for 5.5 months, was training, and freak accident happened during an MACP thing with one of my boys, and I spiral snapped my left leg. While I was drinking, before I went to rehab, I was abusing opiates. I never pissed hot, never got an Article 15, never, UPC'd, none of that, right? Um, but I knew I was fucking up, but I had been clean now for months, and they put me back on opiates, and dude, I just spiraled, man. I spiraled really, really hard, and I had months and months of con leave, and I immediately went back to drinking. I'm crippled. I spiraled down my left leg. I realized like my career in the army is over, and I was training so hard just prior to that I had put in an application to try out for the long walk and try out for CAG's support division, right? So SFODD, and I had like a tentative school date for like June of 2016, and I snapped it. Snapped my leg February 16. Now my ETS date was September of 17, and so I snapped my leg June, July, August. I'm still on con leave, drinking a lot. I get back to my unit. I clean up. I stay mostly out of trouble. I'm not showing up late. No negative counselor statements. So I'm doing what's required of me at this point, because they turn around about 3 months later and they put me on orders for recruiting. I'm like, I'm not recruiting. They're like, no, you're recruiting. You're going to be a recruiter. I'm like, I do not want to do that shit. Like, I would rather get out. Like, I'm working with my branch manager. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a recruiter. I don't believe in it. Like, that's not what, like, you're an HR guy. Like, that's what you're doing. That's career progression for you to make 6 and 7. Like, you need to be a recruiter. You got to have the badge, this and that. And I'm like, no, I'm done. I don't, between the garbage deployment that we just had, and there was some legalities with friendly fire, one of the largest friendly fire incidents, and the captain being retired and the master sergeant being recommended for a court martial. I'm like, they don't give a fuck about us, dude. Like, I don't want to be a part of this shit anymore. I'm done. Like, if I can't do exactly what I want to do, I'm out. So I signed a deck statement. Piss my command off, because here I am, like, I'm a forward first, self-admitting, in recovery, high speed, fucking, battlefield promoted, highly decorated support dude in a specialty unit. Like, I was really, I felt like I set a good example for awareness, for being, self-aware. And I ended up catching a DUI in February on my Harley with my current wife, my girlfriend. But I caught a DUI. It was a mistake. I made a mistake. I was drinking and I was on a run back from Panama City with about 40 other bikes, and I fucked up, man. And so I caught a DUI, and I didn't end up catching an article. I didn't beat the DUI, unfortunately. That cost me thousands of dollars, but neither here nor there. The biggest thing was I didn't fuck up my military career, but I was recommended for uh, a dishonorable discharge. And the first one who recommended me is the same fucking dude I spent 15 hours fixing his ERB to make sure he got promoted to master sergeant his first look. So it was like a kick in the teeth, but I think it was because I disappointed them so much after giving them so much faith that they brought the hammer down so fucking hard.
No, it's crazy how one mistake overrules all
Yeah.
the good.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I had one negative counseling statement as a PFC for showing up to formation 5 minutes late. Prior to that, I had never been in trouble. Never. 8, 7, 8 RCOMs, 10 AEMs, 2 good conduct medals. You know what I mean? I was recommended for an MSM and a BSM. Like, it's more certificates of achievements and coins to stack a drawer than I can count. But I fucked up and they swung the hammer, man. So being an HR guy and being as intelligent on reg as I am, I requested trial by court martial and administrative separation board, and I beat it. So I was given I think it's a 14 Charlie general under honorable grave misconduct discharge for a fucking DUI after 7 years of exemplary service with positions of increasing responsibility worldwide. And but I got to keep all my benefits, and they asked me hey, you're getting out in July. What's your set? And my company commander had some resolve and was like, hey man, like your separation is going to be in July. And I remember going, can you please allow me to wear my uniform and be a soldier one more 4th of July? Don't do it on the 1st. So my final date was the 5th, but originally it would have been September 23rd of 2017. Instead, it was July 5th of 2017. But I always like to be forthcoming. Like, yeah, I fucked up, dude. Like, I went through a lot, both in my personal life, professional life, military, overseas, and fucked up, and I paid the price. You know what I mean?
What do you think was a tougher battle? The battle in Afghanistan for you, or the battle with your personal life with all the losses?
Um, I'd say there were. I feel like the level of loss was comparable, man. In one, I lost the identity of what I thought life was. On the other, I lost the identity of who I was.
Did you find your identity back now?
Oh yeah. It's been a shitstorm, but yeah, for sure.
So briefly, I know the best you could. What was PTSD like for you? Was it nightmares?
Um,
Was it no
oh
fireworks? Was like
no,
what?
the fireworks
Describe
thing,
it.
actually, dude, I actually had my first jump in like 6 months, man. A dump truck let the door slam this morning, and I was on a job site. Like I was on a inspection for a construction project, but the job site was like 5 or 6 blocks over, so it was a big thud, sounded like a 155 going off. Like I was like, what the fuck? And the woman looked at me. She goes, "You okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to react like that." Like I almost like dropped to a damn knee. But um, sorry. Can you repeat that last question?
Yeah, no,
That
no.
my PTSD nightmares, man.
Yeah, like
Nightmares.
like
Night
your
night
darkest moment that you remember being.
nightmares. Nightmares. I would say nightmares coupled with survivor's guilt. Like some of the most amazing warriors in the entire army, got men that I looked up to and attributed everything to perfection of being a soldier.
Yeah,
Were taken from us, and I didn't understand why the fuck I got to come home, and they did.
yeah. That's that you bring that up now. I interviewed a Marine, Matthew Bradford. He um he stepped on an IED and he lost both of his legs and lost both of his eyesight. And he said when he went to Afghanistan, he said there was no option coming home a wounded warrior. It was either I come home with my brothers or I come home in a body bag. And he said coming home a wounded warrior was the biggest struggle in his entire life, that he wanted to go back, and he's the only Marine to ever re-enlist after losing both legs and both of his eyesights, and he still till today runs marathons, he's runs triathlons, but he talks about that survivor's guilt, like you just said, and he said, "I don't give a fuck about my eyesight. I need my legs. I need to be back out there." He said, "Being a wounded warrior is not the title I signed up for."
Yeah.
And and you bring up that survivor's guilt. He said every day he would just be
Yep.
so cry that he is not there with them
I
out
yeah,
there.
the emotional instability I think has been a real challenge. Um I think one of the biggest challenges is being able to reconnect with society has been a real one. Um, it's like my frame of reference is different, and my perception is completely different, and so thus my reality is different. So how the fuck do I connect with those around me? And I think that's a lot of what veterans struggle from. And you know, I I feel like everybody's brain perceives and processes things differently, man. And some more than others. And I got buddies of mine who were right next to me, and outwardly, no, no effect. And hats off to them. And I really didn't expect it because overseas, I slept like a baby, no issues whatsoever. It wasn't until probably about 5, 6 months after I got back that the nightmare started, and the emotional breakdowns and the outbursts and the self sabotage and whatever, um, and the feeling of disconnect, I think really set in. Um, and then as the years went on, it became anger because I became completely aware of why we went over there and why, in my perception, why we did the things that we did and why my friends aren't here and what agendas were being accomplished, and it makes me angry. So that amped it. And then the fact that me and millions of other young men and women, Americans, signed a contract with the dotted line that I'm willing to pay a check up to, and including the cost of my life. And in return, if I'm so fucked up that you're forever responsibility and taking care of me, and I come home and they deem that I am pretty fucked up, after the multitude of physical injuries, both physically and mentally, emotionally, and the responsibility to take care of me. And then I felt marginalized when I was completely ignored. You know what I mean? And my outcry and my requests for help were overseen and disregarded and blatantly ignored.
Yeah, and when I was speaking with Matthew Bradford, who, like I said, stepped on the IED, lost both his legs, both his eyesight. It's hard for me to have these conversations with veterans because it makes me very emotional. Because speaking with him, after the podcast, I get so heavy, and I cried afterwards because this guy was so I'm bitching about you know just something stupid, and this guy was so fucking motivated. He got married afterwards. He had 3 kids after his accident. This man was living the fucking like nothing happened. And I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, how fucking dare you? How dare you bitch about, you know, whatever I was bitching about that day. And it's so hard because I'm looking at this poor guy and I'm like, this guy should be set for life. He should be. I mean, that's the reason why I started this podcast. My whole life I wanted to be a Marine. Like you said, I had the GI Joes, Halloween. I was dressing up military, but when I came to sign up with the recruiter, I was denied for medical. So I said, how could I serve in different ways? And I've seen veterans how they're treated in this country, and my goal is to bring awareness and help them land jobs and help get
Yep.
them some money, get them some help, whatever I can do, and have these heroes tell their stories on my platform. I've had some of the Medal of Honors. I've had, I asked these guys to come on the show, and they're like, "Well, I got to be honest, man. I don't have stories like Dakota Meyer, or I don't have stories like this
No,
guy."
I don't. I don't. I
I
mean,
said,
I have some stories, but like, I think for me, like, um, my boys in Soda 72 and the men in the family business will understand what we went through in Afghanistan and Helmand and Kandahar and OEF 22 in 2014 in the summer in the fighting season. And if you don't know what happened there, you're gonna watch it on TV within the next couple
yeah,
of years.
and I tell these guys,
So
I said, "Listen, you don't have to. I don't give a fuck if you're in West Virginia and you're just an average Joe who was a veteran. Come on my fucking show.
yeah,
Everyone has a story. You could learn from
absolutely.
anyone's story. Everyone is different. Everybody has a story. Everyone comes from somewhere. And a lot of these, even though I haven't served, I haven't been overseas. They do fuck with me, and they do make me emotional because people forget these guys are humans, and we Americans take things. I mean, there's no secret on my platform. I'm a full blown conservative.
Yeah, so am I.
So I think it's disgraceful. How these illegals are here and they get treated better than half our veterans here. And I know we could go on a whole nother rant podcast on
Oh
that
yeah, I can do
on
it.
that
You got yeah. There's a good chance I won't be able to potentially apply to jobs later on down the road. We have that conversation, but
issue.
it
But
is what it is.
so
Yeah.
I've had this podcast, and like I told you, I had a lot of people send me your video. Tell me, when you posted that video that obviously went viral on TikTok, did you know it was going to go viral?
Yeah,
How-
I did. So I had a pretty healthy following at that point. My channel was primarily designated to Florida living, some funny antics, a couple of trends here and there, and then um, identifying how to be a good husband and things that I thought were quality type A husband activity, because I kept seeing this whole dialogue of young men aren't good husbands, and I believe I fucked up so big in my first marriage that I'm a very good husband in my second. So and a lot of young men don't understand and don't have a quality example, because a large majority of America comes from broken homes with husbands who left loose, so they never saw a man love a woman. So I get it. So that was my channel. So I had about 200,000 followers, 190, 200,000 followers at the time, and this whole thing goes through to where I go 18 months, or let's say a year, no VA, no mental health, no nothing, right? And I was seeking mental health and on meds coming out. Day I got out, I was on meds, multiple. Hey man, 13 pills a day. Getting out to nothing. Bye. See you. Here's your D214. Piss off. So I gritted out. I kind of managed to stay afloat, bust my ass, right? I'm trying to make it in in the world that I'm now birthed back into. And we moved back to my hometown, and I had gone through some of the VA up in Destin, Eglin Air Force Base, and I make it back here, and I get a good stable job and work my ass off. We get a rental. My mom had just died. Now I'm even more emotionally distraught. I need to actually see somebody. I go down and I talk to the DAV and my local VA rep, and I finally go through the whole process and I get approved. Right, I get my rating. Now I'm able to seek services. So now, over the course of the next following year, I like 6, 7 different doctors. Each one is like a college graduate, and they want to tell my story. I want to hear that. I mean, these motherfuckers are bloodthirsty. They want to taste the copper in their mouth. I'm gonna tell them everything. What about everything? And I'd come home after every single time. This one doctor would quit. I go to another doctor. Next doctor would be transferred. I see another doctor. That doctor would transfer to this one. I see another doctor. And every time it's the same shit. And I was a basket case for like 9 months, man, because by the time I was healing from opening that box again and talking about my shit, I just settle in. My meds are okay. They got me talking to a new doctor. I show up, nobody there. So I finally freaked the fuck out in the middle of the VA. And I'm like, I'm loud and obnoxious.
That
I'm calling my,
video you recorded was outside the VA.
no, so this is well prefaced or well predicated, well after. This what I'm going through right here, I'm talking about is 2 years before that video in May of last year. So I now I freak out in the VA in 2019, 2020, no, 2019. Freak out. I found that I'm like, I want a member of my community to be servicing me. I want to be able to know that son of a bitch is freaking kids are in my school, in my high schools. They're not going anywhere. I want an establishment in the community. I need reliable continuity care. So they pushed me to outside care. So I see a doctor, really phenomenal young PA. I'm not a big, didn't really mesh well with the doctor, but his PA was great. Connected with me, long term member of my community. We had mutual friends actually. My wife works with his wife, or my wife works with his mother. So
Current or ex?
current, no, but my current wife works with his mother.
Okay.
So there was no we had no social dealing, so there was no conflict of interest or anything like that, right? No violation of doctor patient privacy, any of that. So he sees me for like 18 months. Well, out of nowhere, he sees me for 18 months. They back me off all these crazy fucking medications. Like these people are trying to fucking kill you. So he backs me off all this medication, but he's still running all the meds to the VA. And out of nowhere, between 16 and 18 month mark, I get a phone call from the VA. Goes, hey, your community care approval has been terminated. You now are being pulled into regular VA care. You can no longer see the doctors you've been seeing for mental health. You're coming back to VA care. And I went, absolutely fucking not. That month, the VA was responsible for filling my medication. That month, it was my 30th birthday. So this is 4 years ago now at this point. That month, it was my 30th birthday, and I had my last refill of my meds. Unbeknownst to me, the VA decides to change the milligrams on one of my meds, which, when overdosed or again, when you take too much of it, causes you to become lethargic, lose all sense of stability. You start rapidly vomiting. Your vision goes crazy, and terrible mood swings along with diarrhea. So they double dose my meds so that there's no message on the bottle. But my 30th birthday and the day after, I'm violently fucking sick. I'm holding the walls with vertigo walking down my hallway. Damn near crap my pants. My wife's having me walking in the bathroom. And now I don't have a doctor that I can talk to. And I'm sick as fuck. And I have no clue what's going on. And the only variance is the meds. My wife finally is like, hey, you got new medication lately, right? I'm like, yeah. She walks out to the kitchen, goes to my med cabinet, opens up, and she goes, hey, you're on 200 milligrams twice a day, right? I go, yeah. She goes, baby, or it's 300 milligrams twice a day. I was like, yeah, 300 milligrams twice a day. She goes, baby, you've been taking 2 pills. I go, yeah. She looks at the old bottle. The old bottle's still in there. It's empty. She goes, these are 600 milligrams each. You've been taking 1,200 milligrams twice a day. No message on the bottle at all. So I was like, fuck this. I threw every single med out I had from the VA. Fuck this. I'm doing it on my own. I was like, I'm not doing this shit anymore. So that was November of 2000, November of 2020. I turned 30. Fast forward to fast forward to January of 2023. I'm under a lot of stress. Our entire town's destroyed. We had Hurricane Ian roll through here. I'm in high ticket sales. I'm dealing with millions of dollars. I'm working my ass off. I'm really successful, but I'm hyper motivated to be able to be successful. I'm not sleeping a lot, right? Very, very stressful. And I start seeing some old tendencies come back out. And my nightmares getting bad. And my social awareness is getting really bad. And my reclusiveness is getting bad. My drinking's getting heavy.
Was the medications helping those dreams and everything when you were at a good point?
Yeah, they were. So I said to my wife, I go, hey, I think my doctor actually came back on network. I'm going to put in another community referral to get back in and see him. I need to talk to somebody. I've been having a hard time. I don't want to go down the spiral that I have been in the past. And she's like, hey, I'm proud of you for being self-aware. I'm so proud of you. Yeah, go, baby, go. So I go in January, I go in, I get an appointment for February for primary care. Primary care, I meet with them. I get an appointment for March for community care. Community care, I get the phone calls, 3 phone calls later. And in March, April, I get another call back from community care. Hey, you've been referred to your doctor, the one you wanted to see. He is on network. Cool. Multiple times calling that doctor. Have you got my referral? You got my referral, got my referral, got my referral. Yes, we have it. Yes, we're reviewing it. Yes, we have it. Yes, we're reviewing it. May 16th rolls around. The VA calls me and they're like, hey, you're Joe, this is such and such from Bay Pines VA. We want to let you know your referral has been denied by the provider. You can't seek care from them. We have an appointment with another community care provider at Behavioral Health. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And I'm like, when? And they go, oh, early April, they denied it. There's a big hoopla, dude, and I don't want to get into it because I'm actually back with that doctor right now. So it's going to be limited on what I'm going to talk about because they legitimately, I felt like there were some sketchy shit that went on and why I was denied, and a large amount of it personally in my own.
Yeah, don't say nothing that would jam.
I think the VA wasn't paying my doctor in the past, and that's why they were refusing VA patients.
Yeah, I don't want you to say anything that will jam you up.
Neither here nor there. My current doctor, the same doctor from the past, taking phenomenal care of me. The guys are great. Okay, they manage my medication properly. I'm in a great place. I couldn't be happier. There's a bunch of hoopla around it, but neither here nor there. When everything was said, they're like, "No, you've been denied, and you have this doctor." And I'm like, "No," and I'm like, I break down. I'm openly crying. And she goes, God, I hate doing this. You're the 10th vet today I've had to tell that they can't see their primary mental health care. And now I'm hysterical. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I go, lady, how many of my brothers and sisters do you think ate a lead sandwich today? I said, how many girls are in your office? She goes, there's 12 of us. I was like, so statistically speaking, 120 vets got told that they can't see their mental health providers today if you guys have an even plate. And she goes, well, I guess so. And I go, and you're just Bay Pines. So there's 5 Bay Pines in Florida. Let's call it 4 for every other state. I was like, there are 5,000 vets today that got told that they can't see their primary mental health care provider. I was like, how many of them do you think are going to become a statistic? And I'm like bawling, dude. And I'm so sorry, Mr. Cantasano. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Sergeant. I'm so sorry. And I was like, this has got to be unreal. And I put my phone down and I thought to myself, listen to my dad. He goes, somebody makes you cry, you better make sure they fucking pay for it. And I looked down at my phone, and as my phone closed out, I saw the TikTok emblem. And I went, fuck this, I have a voice. And in my hysteria, I hit record and set my phone on the dash. I told my story, and I waited about 15 minutes, and I called my wife. I had her break scrub. She's in surgery. I had her break scrub, and I go, "Hey, this is what's going on. I want you to know I'm okay. I'm not going to hurt myself." It's like, I need you to know that. It's like, I'm on my way to another sales appointment. It's like, I'm really upset. This is what happened. I just recorded a very, very, very triggering video. I'm still wildly upset. I'm going to figure it out. But if they're going to make me feel like this, I'm going to share my story. And I feel like I am man enough and proud enough and comfortable enough in my own being that I can share my story, because there's no fucking way that this happened to 5,000 vets today and it has not been plastered all over my wall. And it's not, and this is a random Tuesday. So it has happened every Tuesday for months now. And I've never seen this. And this is crazy. I was like, I'm going to change. I was like, I'm going to change the world for my vets.
Was there a goal behind posting the video? Was that it? What you just said,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
or you
yeah.
just
It
didn't
was,
even
yeah.
think about it in
No,
that moment?
no. I did. It was, dude. It was calculated. Because I knew that I was going to get a backlash from, not a backlash. I was going to get immense amount of attention, from my family, friends, and close followers. Like, holy shit, Joe's going to kill himself. So much so that Charlotte County Sheriff's Office showed up at my front porch that night because I was a suicide risk. They were ready to Baker Act me. I'm like,
So when they come to your front porch, are they respectful to you
oh
as
yeah,
being a
yeah. I
or-
have my family's been here in Charlotte County for a long, long time. I've had some really positive interactions with Charlotte County Sheriff's Office, and not so favorable, but respectable interactions. They knew who I was. I live in a lower income neighborhood. I have, I there's there's 5 jet skis and a jet boat and a tiki boat in the backyard, dude. I got graffiti all over my back porch. I'm a higher level creator here in Charlotte County, and I'm all over social media. They know who I am.
So what was the feedback?
The feedback was like, "Hey, we just want to make sure that you're okay, Joe. Or, we had some calls in about that we needed to check on you, that you might potentially be a suicide risk." I'm like, "No," and I had it documented because I had sent text to my wife. "Hey, I made a really emotional video. I promise I'm not at risk myself. I'm on my way to a sales call. I'm going to post this. CCSO will absolutely," and this is at like 1:30 in the afternoon. So I go, "Officer, please look at this." Show him timestamps. I'm like, I knew you guys were going to come here. I was like, I got a phone call that there were 3 troopers. I got eyes all over Charlotte County. I'm a lifetime local, and my friends know what the hell's going on. So I got like a phone call like 3 minutes before, 4 minutes before. Hey man, 3 troopers heading towards Conway. I'm like, all right. So I stepped outside. I had a cold beer in my hand. I stepped outside, sitting on the porch with my dogs. What's up,
So
officer? You know,
so people who know Joe, you know, from young to after military, when they seen this video, it's not easy for a man to be vulnerable like that on camera,
no.
and and it's something there should be more of. What was people surprised by this video? Family, friends, or was this
Um,
okay?
yeah.
More makes sense.
Um, my very, very close friends and my wife knew what I was going through. I become more selective with how deep I get with people, but those around me know that I am a really heartfelt guy. That I am a deep emotional. I'm an emotional being. Like I love hard. I care deeply. I love my friends. Like I love to pour into them. So if you think about the fact of the way that I treat those around me, like, well, shouldn't I treat myself as good, if not deeper, right? So I don't think it came out as a big surprise that I was emotional. I think it came out as a big surprise is that I didn't tell any of them what I was going through. So
And
it caught a lot of people off guard, without a doubt. They're like, "Oh my god, I didn't know Joe was really struggling that hard." Like, yeah, he's been really fucking quiet about it because he's been working his ass off trying to deal with it and going through the right steps and standing in the right lines and waiting on the right phone calls and showing up to the right appointments, only to be marginalized, told to wait. Hurry up, wait, hurry up, wait, hurry up, wait. Shut the fuck up. You'll get your appointment when you do. You'll see the doctor when you do. You're gonna see this one, not that one. You're gonna take this med, not that med. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck am I doing? How did they do that?
and for viewers, I sympathize you with this more because I'm open. I speak about too. I've suffered from anxiety and panic attacks since I'm a young kid. Been on and off medication, and for people who don't experience that or never been to therapy, I saw a therapist for 10 years, and you build a relationship to where they're your
Yeah.
best friend, and it's not easy to just go to a new doctor and rebuild a relationship with that doctor. And my therapist I was with for 10 years knew me better than I knew myself. Like she knew things. So to build that relationship with doctor after doctor and to
So,
rehash and talk about your and it's not an easy thing. And my
no.
problems aren't as big as what yours were, obviously.
Well, I see. I don't like it when you say that. Like my problems aren't as big as yours, dude. Your problems are as real to you as my problems are as real to me. Okay, I don't, and society doesn't get to tell you how you get to fucking feel.
Yeah, but you know,
It's true. It's
I
real. So don't marginalize yourself like that. Like everybody's character is different. Everybody's brain processes stuff different, right? So, and I think that's my own personal self growth just in life in general. Is I always hate it when people downplay their problems, like, oh, it wasn't as bad as such and such. Like,
yeah, Dakota yelled at me also for this.
yeah, dude, like
He
that's
said
bullshit.
he,
Don't
he said
don't
he,
don't because you're literally telling yourself that you're not okay to feel the way that you felt, and that's terrible. And I won't condone that, nor will I sit idly by while you do it. You know what I mean?
no, and I appreciate it. So after that video, when I say feedback, did I mean feedback from like the VA or news
Oh yeah.
outlets
So I
or
was yeah. So I did. I mean, yeah. It was a big outcry. Major labels, national artists.
are they frustrated with you, the VA, for making this
Oh,
public, or are they like, "Oh, I'm
no,
sorry, I'm sorry"?
no. A little half and half. This is oh, this can't be true. Well, it was. And then so I mean, dude. Following morning, I'm on the phone with the director of the Department of Veterans Affairs secretary. This is VA. Okay, so let me know it wasn't a problem. I pissed a lot of people off because I finally spoke the fuck up and I had a platform to do so, and people listened. I was on national news 4 or 5 times. From what I was told, I had 2 or 3 congressionals filed on my behalf to do investigations into the community care and selective appointment scheduling for men's or veterans mental not men's mental health veterans mental health. I feel like I caused a lot of waves. I brought a lot of awareness. It just so happened to be Men's Mental Awareness Month, which was a slam dunk. So I got a twofer. That wasn't on purpose. That wasn't calculated. It just happened to play out that way. I made some really amazing friends in a lot of different industries. I helped advocate for a large number of vets, and I made it. What I feel like I did is I opened the door to a large amount of vets to feel okay, to not feel okay, to be vulnerable and speak the fuck up. And that is my biggest takeaway is that I feel like I influenced heavily for other veterans to realize that it's okay to not be okay and to tell people that you're not fucking okay.
Amen to that. Have you seen a? I know it could take years for a change, but have you seen any kind of change since the video,
Um,
or the right steps, or is it more like those things that it's popular in that 30 second of fame, and then it goes back to the same bullshit fucking
I
stories?
don't, I don't, I don't, I don't. I feel like I constantly have DMs, one way or the other. Like, hey, like, dude, my VA mental health care is like really stepped up since you posted your video. Community care is so much faster. Or I'm going through the same shit. I hate it. What the hell did you do? I'm like, speak up. You know, reach out to your DAB. Reach out, write a letter. Write a letter or get a phone call into a local congressman. Closed mouths do not get fed. So the loudest person in the room is usually the first one to get heard. So make a ruckus, dude. That's my. If you really feel like you're being marginalized and mistreated by the VA, if you talk loud enough, people hear you. It's okay to advocate for yourself, and you absolutely should, and it's your responsibility to do so. It's the same way while we were all in the military, and this will resonate with all my active duty and veterans. Is nobody's going to look out for your career like you do, man. So you better figure it out, right? You better advocate for yourself. Well, nobody is going to look out for your health, wealth, or mental health, spiritual health, or emotional health like you do. So you have to advocate for yourself. And if they didn't hear you the first time, speak up. They didn't hear you the second time, louder. Third time, yell that shit. Fourth time, scream it.
make me want to run through a fucking wall.
Yeah. I mean, dude, closed mouths don't get fed. You want to go hungry? Shut the fuck up. You want to eat? Speak up.
Absolutely. So, towards the end of the podcast, I always ask, in your opinion, how could we treat veterans better in this country? Because I have my answer, and I think, put politics aside, the bullshit, illegals. Just on a, if you had, they gave you were in charge of it. What are some things that people
I
might
would
not really?
say, I would say not just veterans and mental health, but healthcare in general. Spend more time on investing in the solution versus propagating the treatment. For me, I've had some major breakthroughs through psilocybin, magic mushrooms, as well as working with my conventional doctor and his aide. And then Dr. Silverstone from Rewired Ketamine out of Miami, out of Coral Gables. Um, I did ketamine infusion. That was a massive breakthrough. I've had one nightmare since like July of last year. World class outfit. Guys are great. Allowed me to process and go through everything. I'm talking one nightmare, dude. I used to have 2, 3 nightmares a week. Wake up shaking, crying. You know what I mean? Like nasty, nasty nightmares, night terrors, straight up night terrors. And I've had one since like July last year. Um, I would, if that one's not covered by the VA, I'd say if you're a vet and you have the financial means or potentially can catch a sponsorship from a local ketamine clinic, I'd highly recommend that. I think it's a world class breakthrough. My recommendations are for that, and I'd like to caveat on that and give a little blurb. Right, if you're gonna do ketamine therapy, first off, like I would do three sessions. I'd space them out about 2, 3 weeks apart. I would bring a sensory deprivation mask for your eyes. I would journal with conscious intention on what you want, what memories you want to work on. I would write a playlist of melodic music. I would wear headphones similar to the JBLs that I'm wearing right now, and I would have it spaced about every 12 to 13 minutes or so, that you go from melodic music to a single trigger song that brings you back to a memory that you absolutely need to work on. All of us know that there are certain songs that bring us back to specific, exact memories in our life, right? And if not, then I would say spend a couple days associating a specific song or tone or melodic music to a specific memory, so that way you have the ability to delve into to your own psyche and work through your own memories. It did a world for me. Um, you know, I think um, advocating for veterans with mental health by sponsoring gym memberships and coaching through life coaching would be massive, right? Because how are you supposed to be the best version of yourself if you don't give yourself your best? I'm a avid, I've always been into physical fitness, and it's been one of the main roots of why I don't think that I've ever become a statistic, because I owe a responsibility to myself to be my best self. I just felt so upset that the fact that I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing. I was eating right. I was healthy. I was lifting weights. I'm not doing a ton of, not doing illicit drugs. I'm a law-abiding, tax-paying, contributing member of my society, and I stood in all the right lines, and it took all the right phone calls and went to all the right appointments, and still was getting the wrong answers. And so that's part of why I made that video. And I believe that the fact that as a conscious, self-conscious that with PTSD, that I knew that giving myself my best self was wildly important to maintaining some semblance of homeostasis and the ability to maintain sanity in the crazy world that I live in, that we live in, and the crazy place that is behind my eyelids. Um, it gave me a real foundation. So for vets that are struggling, I would say first and foremost, get physically fit, get physically fit, create a regimen, potentially seek alternative methods of psychological treatment through psilocybin or psilocybin. I know I keep saying that wrong. I'm sure I am. Ketamine infusion, a quality, regular, long-term therapist or mentor that you can confide in. Um, the the standard mental health procedures that are currently available, if those medications apply to you and apply to your situation and increase your overall quality of life, and just be really self-aware and advocate for yourself.
If you could answer it, that'd be, if you could, if it's too personal, you don't have to answer. But you bring up that you didn't want to be another statistic. Was there ever your lowest point where you did contemplate
Oh
suicide?
yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Twice, man. Twice. 2 times. Um, yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. Two times I put a barrel in my mouth.
And what talked you out of it? What is there like a pivotal moment in your head that
Um, the first time I was in my tub, because I thought I'd be at least nice enough to where my girlfriend and my best friend slash roommate wouldn't have to clean me up. That they could just the crime CSU just hose down the interior of the tub. Um, and I heard them walk in the door, and I knew I couldn't do it with them in the house. And then the second time I was away working, I was working a storm. I was in South Carolina, and I was in my truck, and I just turned off this tobacco field, and the sun was setting. It was this gorgeous sunset, and I was away from home. I'm working. I'm in my own thoughts. I've been off medication for months. I'm, you know, struggling really, really hard, man. I was just I was in a rut, and I felt I was working nonstop, and being away from home was hard. Away from home, semi indefinitely. I knew I'd go back in a couple weeks, but I had no idea when. And I just thought to myself, like, is this like did I do everything I did to be here right now? And the sunset over the tobacco fields are so gorgeous. I was in South Carolina, and I pulled off into the driveway of this farm. I sat there in my truck for about 15 minutes. I pulled my pistol out and I set it on my center console, and I was like, I said, it took me 15 minutes to realize like I'd be totally okay if this was the last sunset I ever saw, and I'll never forget. It was like this flash, and I saw my wife crying, and I saw the level of disappointment on my little brother's eyes, and I was like, nope, fuck that. And I unchambered it, put it back in my center console, and fucking worked for another week and a half, and came home, man. I think for me, my biggest driver has always been growing up, because growing up we had friends who I had friends who took their own lives, that everybody around me was like, what a selfish piece of shit, what a selfish asshole, what an easy way out. And it resonated with me, because I feel like I am very selfish in my quest for my own personal happiness. And generally speaking, if you're on my team and along with my quest, I'm the most selfless man you'll ever meet. I'll support the cause till I'll give you everything. And I just didn't feel like I could disappoint that many people around me, and I knew it wasn't indicative of the character in which I've worked so hard to build and create over the course of the last 34 years of my life.
from Joe growing up to Joe now, after the struggles, the battles, the army, the military, your whole fucking life story to where you are to this day, do you think mom and dad are proud of you?
Oh, dude, I hope so. Fuck, I hope so. I don't. It'd be really shitty if they weren't. Sorry, that punched me in the gut.
No, man, you're good, brother. And you're just,
Yeah,
inspiration for everybody. And
yeah, I fucking hope so. Um, and if they're not, then if they're not proud of me now, I don't know how I'd ever earn their approval. So I'd hope they are.
no, they definitely are, brother. They're definitely proud. I think the whole
I,
world's proud of you.
I always said if I was half the man my dad was, I knew I'd be a damn good man. So that's kind of been my driving force, dude.
Yeah,
Um,
I kind of live by those same words, man. My dad's my
oh
hero.
fuck, God, that punched me right in the balls, dude.
Sorry, brother.
You're okay. You're all right. That just I've been like pretty strong the entire time, but that one caught me off guard a little bit, and I should have expected it, but
No, you're good.
yeah,
Listen, man. There's nothing wrong with it. It's raw
I know.
emotion, especially coming from an Italian family. It's all love. I mean,
Oh yeah, and it was
it's
funny. It
very
was I saw the level, after my wife and I just got back from 2 weeks in Italy, right? We went backpacking for our 5th anniversary in Italy. Rome, Florence, Naples, Amalfi, Sicily, Palermo, Cefalù, back to Rome. Wonderful. And I fell in love with the culture because it reminded me so much of my childhood.
Nothing better.
Oh, dude, so good, so good. And I just was like, I watched the Italian heritage slowly drain away from my family after my father died, and then even more so after my mother died. Oh my
You got to try to keep that in your house, even
God. Yeah,
yourself. Just try,
yeah.
because it's so full with love, and nobody who's not Italian wouldn't understand what it's like being in that kind of a household to
Well,
where
see, that's
such
what's so funny is
unconditional love.
I crave that, and like in the military, dude, like some of my closest friends were Puerto Rican, Dominican, Mexican, and Spanish, because that's that like Latin culture, you know. It was like it resonated the most with me. That was the closest to the way that I grew up.
Yeah, and like growing up, I could have robbed a bank, and my picture could have been on the fucking news. They could have had me dead to right, and my mom would said, "That's not my son.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey,
Who's
oh,
that
not
kid?"
mine. Exactly. Yeah. Or hey, let's come on, gentlemen, let's do an alibi. Where was he? You know what I mean? Joey, Joey? Where's the cash? Hey, what orange tree are we burying it under? You know what I mean? Yeah,
So
exactly. I know, I get it, man. It's yeah, it was a unique way to grow up. I think it made me very successful with creating a rapport with my junior soldiers because I felt like I knew how to be a good dad, right? And if you're teen daddy, right? So
well, I
um,
I could tell you for a fact. Well, two things. One, your parents are definitely proud of you, and two, you should definitely be proud of yourself, if anything,
thanks.
because take the military, take everything out of it, just to overcome that adversity and being the man you are, just learning from mistakes, not not letting mistakes ruin your life, being a good husband, being, dealing the cards that you were dealt with, not being able to have kids, but still having that personality to where you could, learn how to live with, those bad things and, you know, be able to tell yourself that, be proud of yourself more often if you're not already, because
Yeah,
people don't give themselves credit, or sometimes they don't have time. And for somebody from me who battled with anxiety, it's a hard battle. And you know, just if anything, be proud of yourself,
thanks, man. Yeah,
because
I mean, I feel like I am, I feel like I am proud of myself, but I'm humble enough to know that I'm not done yet.
and you should never be done. You should always have some kind of goal to fight
Oh
for.
yeah,
And I always like to end the podcast is on high notes because I know it's very emotional. So I ask every single veteran the same question. And I always get a different answer. That's why I love asking it. What what does the American flag mean to you? Because we've seen it get burned, we've seen it get stepped on, we've seen the fucking bullshit from, on the left. Well, when you see that American flag, what does Joe think about?
I don't know. It's changed so much over the years, man. I well, I don't know if I can tell you what it means to me anymore. Maybe I can just tell you that there's an all black American flag hanging in my front yard nowadays.
I think that answers the question because I could pretty much
It's
take.
it's all black, and it has been for 2 years. So my blood runs red, white, and blue, but my spirit is black right now.
I mean, it's hard not to look at our country any differently at this moment.
Yep,
It's almost pathetic.
it's pathetic. It's the American dream that so many of us young, less affluent, marginalized, and ignorant young men and women went off to fight for this fucking dream of the white picket fence in the home. I was fortunate enough to make decisions where I do have a home. I do have a home, but the likelihood of most young veterans returning to the United States after combat and being able to afford a home and live a comfortable life and succeed is extremely low. We've been sold out by by our by our politicians. They should be wearing fucking NASCAR jackets to let us know who's sponsoring. So we the people are fucking pissed, and I am very angry, and I feel extremely slighted, and I'm wildly disappointed in the level of backbone by current and previous administrations. I'm my flag is black in the front yard, and I think that says everything that I need to.
So so off to the fun part to end the
Yeah,
podcast. You can have a
yeah,
little fun. You can have a little fun here. I always like to, loosen the mood a little bit.
yeah.
Wh- I'm gonna shoot some rapid questions, and you're gonna
All
give me
right,
an answer for them the best you could.
all right. What do you got? Sorry.
Top 5 war movies.
Oh, um, okay. So I I don't want to put them in order, but they're pretty close. So uh, what is it? Saving Private Ryan's definitely up there. Um, uh, I really love. I think it's Wind Talkers with Mel Gibson.
Yes, great movie.
Okay. No, that's not Mel Gibson. Wind Talkers. We Were Soldiers. We Were Soldiers. I think is probably one of the greatest movies ever produced.
Underrated.
Ever. It's the wildly one of the most amazing movies ever produced. So if I had to rank them, and if you want me to,
It doesn't have
we
to
were
be ranked,
yeah.
but the
But
few.
so We Were Soldiers, Wind Talkers, Saving Private Ryan, um, uh, fucking 13 was amazing. I thought that was a really great ode to was that fifth group. Those dudes were straight pipe hitters in the initial invasion of Afghanistan and the allegiance with the Northern Alliance. I think it was extremely indicative of team life as I witnessed it and lived it. That was a phenomenal movie. It was well executed. Some people may say different, but I thought it was great. And then um, hmm, a lot of people will say, Platoon or even uh, there's a couple of really great classics. Uh, hmm. So I
Let
gave
me.
you four.
I'll keep going because I have some more on my list that might refresh your memory. Then we'll
Yeah, yeah.
circle back to it.
All right, what do you got?
What what foods did you crave the most overseas?
Ooh, fucking Oreos, bro. Oh my god,
Oreos.
Oreos and
Damn.
whole cold milk.
Some combo.
Oh, well, I think it was as a kid I was able to, walk down my dirt road from the bus stop, and I was able to have 4 Oreos a day with my glass of whole milk, ice cold. You know what I mean? And I'd always sneak a couple and have my mom yelling at me. And so I think it was my um, eternal need for a sense of being a child and innocence that made me crave it so bad because I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was doing was not childlike and not innocent at all.
Is Full Metal Jacket accurate?
Well, I mean that was the Full Metal Jacket was a Marine Corps movie and it was based in Vietnam, so I wouldn't have a staple to be able to speak on it.
What are some fun things you guys did overseas? Any
Oh,
pranks? Any
oh,
fucking crazy
yeah,
shit?
MRE bombs for sure. Um, MRE bombs, uh, slamming on the doors of B huts to wake guys up, saying that we were being overrun. That was pretty fucking funny. Um, Freaking what else, man? Uh, Oh, freaking out all of the regular army cats on any installation we were at. Like the damn mortar, the rocket alarms and mortar alarms would be going off. Everybody's running to bunkers, and we're like most dudes in group would just continue meandering down whatever path and like smoking a cigarette, no hat, hands in pockets, like beard or whatever. Like it's just the utter like fuck it was pretty funny, and just the look on everybody else's faces. Um, I don't know, I felt like I was with a group of guys where we verbally fucked with each other, but as far as like practical pranks, it was
Mm.
pretty limited to like MRE bombs. I know I had a couple. We had a warrant get really hemmed up because he threw a flashbang underneath one of the B huts, blew out kids' eardrums and whatnot. Oh, and then so the my one of my teams was deployed the year before me in Afghanistan, and they were the same team that did the he. They got in a bunch of fucking trouble for it, but they did the "Call Me Maybe," that the "Call Me Maybe," like the in Afghanistan where they're doing it against the
Yeah.
Dolphins cheerleaders.
Yep.
That was like one of the guys in there is like Justin Pickering. He's a good buddy of mine, but that whole team was one of the ODAs in Second Battalion, and I served with all those dudes, so we'd fuck with them about that a little bit.
Name 3 songs that would pump you up overseas.
Oh, Bad Company, Five Finger Death Punch, My Last Serenade, Kill Switch Engage, and Let the Bodies Hit the Floor.
Damn. All right. So we're going full on heavy metal.
Yeah, Afghanistan was definitely heavy metal for me. Um, One of the only ones that I think I was I'm a big Lil Wayne fan. So like the Carter 3 and the his mixtapes, I loved Shooter. So that was like one of my favorites. I love
So
that. So
uh, we're gonna play a quick game.
what do you got?
I'm gonna name six movies.
Yep.
Tell me Hollywood or realistic.
All right.
The best you could.
All
First
right. Gotcha.
movie is everybody's favorite, obviously. Black Hawk Down.
Oh, realistic.
Realistic. Lone Survivor.
It was theatricized, but I think that he had a large play in the way that was developed. It was realistic as possible to the theatrics that they needed to be able to sell the movie.
Right. American Sniper.
Um, I
And,
believe it
and
was.
before you answer, I always tell everybody also, this is not disrespect to the person the
No,
movies were made
no,
off of.
no.
It's
Hey,
just Hollywood movie.
Chris Kyle was a stud.
Yeah,
Obviously,
you
all
know
of
how
these.
people are.
Yeah,
They have all kinds of
Chris,
things, about.
Chris Kyle, the Navy SEALs and the Marine Corps. They use the Marine Corps and the Uplift Army and the rest of the services he was embedded with were studs. Right, Fallujah was no joke.
We're
Iraq
speaking
was
fully Hollywood movie.
yeah. Hollywood. I mean every single one of these movies is Hollywood as shit. I think that leans more on the realistic side.
Hurt Locker.
Hurt Locker is fucking theatrical as shit.
Yeah, everyone says that's the biggest bullshit.
Now I enjoy it. I like it for the theatrics. I think it's funny as hell. Like I'm like but I'm also one of the military vets. Like my wife is like she's like I don't like watching military movies with you. I'm like why? She's like you pick that shit apart. I'm like look at that motherfucker. Look at the motherfucker's uniform. We would never do that. And there ain't no way I was like, these are fucking regular EOD dudes. They're not running 2 Humvees deep in the middle of the desert do a weapons cache dump. Eat a dick.
I would love to watch a movie with you that impressed you.
Oh yeah. I thought really We Were Soldiers is one of the most impressive movies I've ever seen.
How about 13 Hours?
13 Hours I thought was phenomenal. I thought it was phenomenal.
Zero Dark 30.
Zero Dark 30 was good, man. Uh, Zero Dark 30 was good. I think as a whole, and maybe it's just climate, but I believe a lot of Navy SEAL movies tend to be over theatricized, and not nearly as realistic to the actual the actual occurrences that happen. But I could be wrong. But that's just my personal perspective.
Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, Saving Private Ryan. I think that's realistic as it can be.
I think it was Ninja who told him. I keep calling him Ninja, as you would know as Ninja. He was Special Forces. He said the sound effects in Saving Private Ryan is so spot on for that
Oh,
time and era.
oh
He did so good.
I watched Saving Private Ryan as a young boy when it came out because that movie came out almost 20 years ago now at this point. And I remember watching it with a man who stormed Omaha. So I was writing. I've always been completely fascinated with combat war and veterans and stuff. And so like every year, we had to write an English paper in school, and we had the ability to be able to pick what we wanted to write it on. And like 3 or 4 years in a row, I did it with World War II vets. One who stormed Okinawa, one who was a Korea vet, one was a Vietnam vet, and the other one was a Omaha D-Day vet. And we watched that movie together. And he started crying. He made me shut it off. He said, "This is so fucking real. I can't watch this anymore."
Before I give my opinion on it, how about Hacksaw Ridge?
Dude, I think that's a great movie. I think that's a I I think that's a great movie. I didn't serve in that conflict, but obviously it's a little theatricized. But after going back and reading his citations, I think it's pretty accurate.
Jarhead.
Uh, Dude, I think Jarhead's pretty close too, man.
And
But that's pre me as well, right? So, but I've got a couple friends who served in Gulf Storm, and they're like they love Jarhead. They think
did you see the new Jake Gyllenhaal movie, The Covenant, on
I
Amazon?
did see it. I thought it was really good.
I loved it.
I
But
didn't think
I don't know if it's real or not, but
I thought it was really good. I thought it was good. I probably need to go back and rewatch it again. I think what resonated the most with me is, we definitely had a lot of insider threats and insider attacks. Bad Terps, bad ANASF, friendly fire, ANSF opening up with a saw on a mission, and killing guys on a Chinook, where you've been embedded and trusted this guy for months, and they turn around and you know, go haywire. And so I think that part of the storyline resonated really heavy with me.
the hardest movie you're gonna have to pick, the last one, the one that everyone struggles with, Tropical Thunder.
Dude, I think Tropic Thunder is so good. Dude, I think you couldn't make that movie today, but man, that shit is good.
Tell me it's not the best.
Yeah. So, what do you mean, you people never go fool with that? Dude,
Joe,
that's good, man. That's good.
it's been a pleasure having you on, man.
Hey, thanks so much. I honestly, man, I was a little apprehensive. I'll be flat out honest with you. Um, I you know, I think that because you were so open and transparent, like, hey, I just want to get on and bullshit. Where there were a couple podcasts I turned down and I think you're my first podcast since this, coming up on a year, man. I did plenty of stuff on the news or whatever, but you're my first podcast, and I think it's because you were so open and transparent. You're just like, hey, I just want to get on bullshit. Let's hear some of the story. Let's have a conversation. Let's do an open dialogue. And I thought that was really cool. A lot of the other podcasters that wanted me to get on, some bigger level dudes, bigger podcasters with a higher, they like they really wanted to dig into certain subjects or create some kind of narrative, and that's just I'm like I don't want to be weaponized. I don't want to, I did what I did because I thought it would be of value for people who were in my position, and I felt like I'd bring awareness. I'm like, that's what I took from it. You know what I mean? And I
I
felt like
really
maybe I may make people more comfortable with being vulnerable. It's okay to be vulnerable.
and I appreciate those words because I think what makes me different from those, bigger podcasts and those guys, they just want you because, you're that hot moment or, they want those views off of, your story. But my whole podcast is dedicated. I live and breathe helping these veterans and bringing awareness. And this whole podcast, obviously, I do it for free. I take my time out of my days and I really
Yeah,
try and I really battle. And I know you were apprehensive about doing it and I appreciate it. And I hope I made you comfortable enough to where, you were able to tell your life story in full
yeah,
detail and, help these young people watching this. And, I appreciate you so much for even, giving
yeah.
the time to come on here.
For sure, for sure. Hey, so I do want to do a quick shout out, right? So, as far as conservative content goes, right? If you don't follow Conservative Ant, who's an extremely controversial conservative creator, he's got a really great apparel line called Patriot Rockstar. He's all for vets, and extremely outspoken. He's also a local Southwest Florida creator. He's wonderful. And then mission22.org. I did a couple sessions with those guys that they were one of the first organizations to reach out to me and do a mental health therapy via Zoom. Directly phone within 4 hours. I was on the phone with the CEO of mission22.org. That organization's great. All the individuals are wonderful. They definitely helped settle me down and assisted in my path and road and continuous adventure to healing and self-awareness. So I definitely want to give a big thank you to them. The guys at NBC and Fox for airing my story and sharing my message have been phenomenal. And then I know this is like, I actually really haven't put this out, and I may piss some people off, but dude, the Tate brothers, Andrew and Tristan Tate, within 5 hours reached out to me on the phone, got my WhatsApp, called me, was like offered. They were so kind. Was like, hey, we want to pay for the next 10 years of mental health care. You pick the provider, get the price. We're paying for the next 10 years. Like, they were so open. And for me, like, it wasn't a matter of money. It was a matter of a contracting with the United States government. Like, no, I want my service. I did it. I want them to pay for it. And they've turned out to be some of the most wonderful friends, the most genuine men, great mentors as far as my own personal professional self, motivational self-help. That may disgruntle a lot of people, and I understand that they're under scrutiny for a number of different things. But the two of those men have been phenomenal and done wonderful things for me personally, on a personal level. So I do want to do a shout out to them. My amazing wife for being my absolute rock, my anchor in rough seas, my safe harbor. That woman's really the only reason I'm still here, man. So
behind every good man's an even greater woman, brother.
Yeah, I wish that I could fill her shadow. So
shout out to her, and everything you just plugged. I'll make sure I put a link in the description for people to go check them out, and I definitely will check them out. And like I said, I appreciate you coming on. You're an inspiration to a lot of people. Like I told you, I'm proud of you. I know for a fact your parents are proud of you. Your wife's proud of you. We're all proud of you, and I wish you nothing but the best. And we'll keep in touch. And
yeah, absolutely.
We'll watch this podcast, bro.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously now I got another stop I need to make when I come back up to the beach house in Queens. So
please
expect me on your doorstep. Either that or you're gonna join me at Finnegan's over here in Breezy. You know what I mean? When I'm up there.
You show up to my house, man. I'll have my mom come cook you a nice Sunday dinner.
Ugh, my heart.
All right, brother. It's been a pleasure, man.
Hey, been a pleasure. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
You got it, brother. Tell the wife I said hello, and God bless, man.
God bless, man. Later.
My dear son, it's almost June. I hope this letter catches up with you and finds you well. It's been dry, but they're calling for rain, and everything's the same old same in Johnsonville. Your stubborn old daddy ain't said too much, but I'm sure you know he sends his love. And she goes on in a letter from home. I hold it up and show my buddies like we ain't scared and our boots ain't muddy, and they all laugh like there's something funny about the way I talk when I say mama sends her best, y'all. I fold it up and put it in my shirt, pick up my gun and get back to work, and it keeps me